Hello? Hello? Okay.
We're on the air?
Yeah!
So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Good evening, everybody. This is Brian Smith along with
Carrie Smith.
Here on Smyth Radio, giving you all the breaking news and updates and details. And for the first time, we have an exclusive interview on Chris Lee Cornell. Some people are calling him Christopher, the ISIS sympathizer, as he is called, that here in Green Township in Cincinnati on the west side apparently was taken down by the FBI.
You didn't just say that we have an interview with Chris Cornell.
Did I say Chris? It's about Chris.
Right.
The interview
He's not
is
here. He's not here. But we do have a very special guest.
You want to go ahead and announce the guest?
Yeah, this person knew Chris Cornell years ago, back when he was would be considered a child.
A lad.
A lad, yeah. And knew his parents also. And that person would be yours truly,
Gary Smith. Wow.
Yeah.
That is absolutely
devastating. I mean,
okay. Let's
nice family.
Let's start from the beginning. Folks who have listened before obviously know you, but give them a little bit of your background, who you are, and how you would even come in contact with Chris and his family.
Well, I've been coaching in the sport of wrestling for many years now, and at one point, back in 2002, 2003, I decided to found a youth program for kids, grade school kids, kindergarten through 6th grade. And I believe it was my very first year ever coaching.
Wow.
I went out to recruit kids from the local elementary schools, and a bunch of them came to sign up, and one of them just happened to be Chris and his parents to sign up.
Now, how old at this time would he be?
I believe he was 9.
Now, I know a lot of you folks listening right now, you're like, 9? He's 20-something now.
He's 20.
20. I know, but I personally have some very solid thoughts and ideas and emotions on the upbringing of children and the subtle nuances of these children. And you get into psychology and look at all that stuff, and you can find out for yourself the things that go on in a family raising a child and why they veer. And I kind of think that there's a lot here.
Right. And I full disclosure, I only coached him for either 1 or 2 years, which is a significant amount of time. It's not like I just know him in passing. This
Right.
is a kid that I had to get to know pretty well because, I'm Matt's side coaching him, and then, of course, I'm dealing with his parents because I have to give them feedback on his progress and all that kind of stuff. It's just like any other teacher or educator in any other subject. It's just that this would be the subject of the sport of wrestling.
And I seem to think, because I wrestled in junior high, and I think that wrestling as a sport is completely different than a lot of the other sports for a number of reasons. But for one main reason, I felt more of a connection with my coach when I wrestled versus when I played football or baseball.
Well, think of it this way, and you would know this, Brian, but anybody listening out there, I mean, I've coached a little bit, assisted in soccer and
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. Plus, I played some team sports, including soccer and all that kind of stuff. But it's like the coach and 11 players, and they all the 11 players go out there, and a lot of times the coach will briefly say something to a kid individually, but a lot of times they're coaching them as a whole.
Right.
Like, hey guys, make sure you do this. Hey guys, you make. But in wrestling, you're out there, and really, honestly, besides you and your opponent, it's you and your coach, and that's it.
Right.
It's like a 2-man operation. The whole match, it's you and your coach.
Well, almost like boxing.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot like
a quarter
boxing.
man. Yeah, quarter man. Yeah.
You go back to the corner. Yeah, Mick, cut me, Mick.
Yeah, and it's very intimate when you consider that not only are you yelling the stuff out for them hopefully to hear during the match, but then anytime there's a break in the match, they might look over and you're giving them one-on-one instruction, and then after the match, you're telling them, oh, you did this well, you did this wrong, work on this. And then, of course, I think the most intimate time would be right before the match, because there's a lot of emotions going on right before match, a lot of butterflies in the stomach.
Oh, yeah.
And, well, the coach knows this, and the coach is just trying to either calm the kid down or fire him up in some cases, and it depends on the personality and all that kind of stuff.
Have you ever had wrestlers? When I wrestled, we had one wrestler that before every single match, it almost never failed. He threw up.
Yeah, we have one. We have a new one now.
You got a thrower-upper?
Thrower-upper. We have a tosser.
You have a tosser? Wow.
But, no, this kid, he's new. He wrestled for another team for many years, and he's a state placer.
Okay.
Very good wrestler. And he decided to come over and wrestle for us this year. So we have him for the first year this year, and I didn't know about it. And his dad came up to me and said, yeah, he gets a little sick. He's a
little puker.
And then he was telling me about how he used to do it all the time, and then he got away from it. But now
he came back.
Came back.
Oh, man.
He's like, he's coming up wrestling soon, but he's not here.
Okay.
He had to run off.
Right.
He'll be back, though.
He'll be back in a minute. Wow.
So we got one of those on the team
and
now.
The kid that was on our team that was a puker, his dad was the principal of the junior high school.
Okay.
And he was one of the best wrestlers we had.
So apparently, puking before matches might be a very good thing. Because not only your guys' best wrestler,
right.
but our new wrestler, he's probably one of our best wrestlers. I mean, he came in third place at state last year.
Wow. So the reason why we're bringing up all these different things is because I want you folks to
give some context.
Yes, I want you to get in the mindset of what wrestling, if you've never seen it or been around it, and no, this has nothing to do with WWF, WCW.
It's amateur wrestling. It's
NWA.
More like, right, it's more like there was an actual league. Yeah.
NWA. I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. So they're this is more like what you would see in the Olympics.
Right.
College wrestling. College wrestling. That would be the closest because Olympic wrestling, the rules are a lot different. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I just wanted to give some background. And it's funny now that we're talking about this. If you've been watching the news carefully on this whole Chris Cornell thing. They are identifying him as a wrestler, and the reason is because his dad has been identifying him as a wrestler.
Right.
So apparently this was a big part of his life, even though I only introduced him to the sport, and I only coached him for either 1 or 2 years. It was,
we'll say a couple.
It was like 11 years ago, and he ended up leaving to go wrestle for another program, and then he went on to junior high and then high school. And I didn't even know he wrestled in high school because normally I see all the varsity kids, and certainly I would have remembered a kid that I introduced to the sport. So I don't think he ever wrestled in varsity in high school because I'm certain I would have seen him.
Right.
Certain, because I do go to all the varsity matches. I actually assist on the varsity level, so I would have certainly seen him. So I'm thinking by the time you get to high school, probably a JV wrestler maybe, and then probably quit at some point because by your senior year, I'm sure. I mean, he was a good wrestler. The first year that I coached him, he was probably, if not the best on my team, one of the best.
So he picked up the sport pretty quick.
He picked it up faster than anybody else on the team. Now, mind you, he was one of the older kids. At 9 years old, we had a couple kids that were older, but they weren't as good as Chris. And then we had a lot of younger kids who, just based on their age, the younger you are, the slower you are to pick up on all this, the technique and all that.
Right.
But at being 9, 10 years old, Chris was athletic, and he was one of those kids. You know how, like, in a wrestling match, a lot of kids treat it as a fight, and they block everything out, and it's just like hand-to-hand combat.
I don't know if it was a problem, but my problem was my coach would scream at me after the match and tell me, I told you this, this, and this. What? Why can't I'm screaming at it? I couldn't hear a thing.
I couldn't either.
Completely deaf to the entire world.
And I'll never forget one of the first tournaments I coached, Chris, because this was remarkable to me, because I could never do this, and Chris was doing this. I remember he was in a position where he was in good position. He maintained good position. He was defending the guy. It was a shot on his legs, and he was defending his legs. And while in perfect position, as I started telling him to do something, he stopped and looked up at me while maintaining perfect position, so that he could make sure he understood what I was saying to him. And as soon as he understood what I said to him, he did it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember afterwards making that comment to his dad.
That's amazing.
And I said, that's pretty amazing. I was amazed by that. But anyway, so he's one of my better wrestlers and whatever. But here's the thing about Chris, and this was back then. I've actually talked to some of his coaches, and they didn't really recognize this, but I did. He had some anger issues. He when he would win a match, he was okay. When he would lose a match, he was the kind of kid you almost had to just get out of the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, now you do have kids that cry, break down.
Yeah, there's a lot of crying in wrestling because
it's an emotional sport.
We had a kid come in from another state, and Ohio's a really tough wrestling state for youth.
Oh, okay.
Actually, for high school too. But this kid was a state champion from his former state. Comes to Ohio, he's doing real well, winning all his matches, and then finally he meets his match and loses one, and just broke down and cried and cried and cried, and looked like he wanted to quit, and all that kind of stuff. The kid's only 6.
Right.
He's 6 years old. Yeah, at 5 years old, he was a state champion from his other state.
Wow.
But he never ever got rattled, and then when he lost, he was inconsolable. But he was respectful, and he wasn't angry. He was just sad.
When I won my first practice match to see who would start, I jumped up and threw my hands in the air and started jumping up and down and screaming.
You did the icky shuffle.
I did, with my hands in the air, and the coach immediately came over.
Said, we don't do that.
We don't do that. and then when I went up for my first real match, as I was getting ready to go out, the coach pulled me and said, "Now remember, we talked about this.
Don't do that.
Don't put your hands in the air.
Don't look down at him on the ground on his back and say, 'Get up, you suck,' or whatever."
They'll throw the taunting flag.
Yeah. That would be called unsportsmanlike conduct.
So you're saying that that his anger, if you will, after a match was
pretty intense,
more apparent than.
Well, let me explain this to you. It was my first year ever coaching youth wrestling.
Okay.
And so everything that I was experiencing at the time was new to me, and so I just kind of took it as, okay, so I have to deal with this, and this is probably something I'm going to have to deal with forever.
Right.
And some kids were, lots of kids had meltdowns when they would lose, just total meltdowns, and every meltdown was different. Sometimes it was a kid that just would go into a corner and cry in the corner, and just they didn't want to talk to anybody. Some of them would scream and shout and act hysterical. And some of them would get violent. And don't think that Chris was the only one that's ever, lashed out and did things like throw a headgear or whatever.
Right.
But
I've seen guys rip their headgear off and flip it across the mat.
Right. And never did I say, "Wow, this kid's a future jihadist." I could totally see. I mean,
you didn't see ISIL or ISIS in his future?
No. I did none of that. I ever thought. But now, after 10, 11 years of coaching youth, and seeing all the different reactions. I'm talking thousands of kids here. I've seen come and go.
But we're talking 11 years.
11 years of coaching. I can look back and say that he was unique. I didn't know it at the time.
Right.
Now, if I had already been coaching 10 years when Chris came along, I might have been like, whoa, there's some red flags here.
Right.
I didn't know that to me this was all new. Looking back, it was pretty intense, and I'll tell you why. Every time he would lose an important match, was like the finals, where winner gets first, loser takes second. So which was common for Chris. He would come in first, second, or third in most of his.
Wow,
excuse me,
really?
in most of his tournaments, yeah. Every once in a while he might not place, but it was rare for Chris. I mean, Chris placed almost most of his tournaments, and that's how good he was. I mean, he had a lot of talent for a new wrestler. But whenever he would come in second, he would take his medal and he would stomp off and make a beeline to the nearest garbage can and throw that thing as hard as he can, like a slam dunk, into the garbage can.
You gotta be kidding me!
Yeah, and then his parents.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it before, but it was really common. And what I'm thinking is, let me get back to this. I'm gonna back up and then I'll get back to the throwing away of his medal. There's this one incident where I went over to his parents, and I think Chris had already went there and was sitting next to his parents. And I went over to them to tell them how good he did and what went wrong and why he only came in second, why he didn't win the match. And a lot of times it was, well, Chris is in his first year, and this kid's been wrestling for 4 years, and so this is what you got to expect. But don't worry, because he's going to catch up with him. He's going to get better. And he's going to catch up with those kids, and he's going to beat him in the future. So that was the kind of speeches I would have to these parents. Well, any time there was any attempt to converse with the kid, Chris would proceed to verbally abuse his parents.
And this is the point that I wanted to come out, because this, in my mind, this is absolutely critical, the relationship that you have with your child.
Yeah, and the first time it happened, obviously very startling. I want to use the phrase cuss out his parents, but I don't think there was any cuss words used, because that would have been too much. That would have been so over the top. I would have had been like, there would have been people nearby that would have been like, "What did he just say?"
Right, but you're saying it was so violent that it was like almost as if.
It was so abusive. The language that he used and the words that came out of his mouth to his parents were something that you would be shocked. You would be shocked that a kid only 9 or 10 years old would say to his parents, and both parents were sitting right there when it would happen. And in shock, I would be like, my first initial reaction was, oh, here comes Dad about to put this out real quick.
Right, because his mom was 30 and his dad was 40 at the time.
No, his dad was 20 years older than his mom.
Okay, so...
Or I should say is.
Right, so she was 20 when he was born.
So,
she was almost 30
She was
at
about
this time,
30, and he was about
50.
50. Yeah. Because I remember wondering what the story was about that, but then I
right,
when I got to know them more, I saw, I learned that
we've got parents on our soccer team that are 30 years apart.
Wow. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
it happens. Love comes when it comes.
Yeah, whatever. No big deal. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just remember noticing. Like, he was the oldest dad on the team.
Right.
Of all the dads, of all the kids on our team, he was the oldest. And I wasn't sure, what the story was, and then I learned when I got to know the parents better. But anyway, so he would sit there and just blow up. He wouldn't blow up about losing. He wouldn't blow up about anything. He would blow up on his parents. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, that was really disrespectful. Let's see how the parents handle it. And they would sit there, and I would say my best description of their reaction would be, "Oh no, he's mad. We better leave him alone." We'll just leave him alone.
What?
No, like that was their reaction. Like to not address it. That was
ignore it so it goes away, it dissipates itself and goes away if we ignore it.
They stopped short of damn near apologizing for upsetting him.
Wow!
And because my initial reaction is I want to punish him right now by making him do 1,000 push-ups for disrespecting his parents.
And
like
let me tell you something right now, folks. If you ever wanted to find probably the most respectful individual I can possibly imagine, you go meet anybody in any military branch immediately after boot camp. Yeah. Right after basic training and boot camp, that first initial visit that you get with your parents when they show up for graduation, they don't know who you are.
Yeah, I'll never forget when I got home. My brother and sister were like, they were afraid to talk to me. But anyway, I mean that.
Okay,
I get off on a subject there because that has nothing to do with respect.
But that's my point, though. Discipline and respect go hand in hand.
Right. So yeah. I mean, I wanted to punish him, and you know what? Now that I'm an experienced coach, I would have definitely done something about it. But being a new coach, I was just in such shock at the way he treated his parents that I didn't even know what to do about it. And also, I felt like it's not my place to intervene here. Now that I'm an experienced coach and a lot older and wiser, I mean, hell, I was in my 20s back then. So now that I'm older and wiser, I would be able to. I would have addressed it immediately. Right. Immediately.
Even when I played football, there was a guy who removed his helmet, just took it off, and was running laps. You just didn't take your helmet off.
Okay, yeah, so that's a rule.
Unless the game was completely over and it was finished, your helmet stayed on your head the entire game. And if you took it off, you were running laps.
Okay.
I mean, there's that level of discipline you have to have when you're doing competitive sports.
Right, and back then in my first year of coaching, I didn't really even have set rules that I would explain to all the kids. I had to learn that.
Right.
I had to learn, okay, these are the rules that I need to tell all the parents and all the kids that they need to adhere to, and then here are the punishments for violating any of those rules. First year coaching was just like, okay, guys, we're going to learn the sport of wrestling. And then it was all by the seat of my pants and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah, so this happened several times. And it wasn't like this one incident happened. It was the relationship between Chris and his parents, that he was very abusive to them. We're talking about a 9, 10-year-old kid. And then he left to go wrestle for other teams throughout the years. All these, like, he wrestled for Elder for a while, and then for Oak Hills when he went to junior high.
Right.
He was the Oak Hills School District. He was wrestling for them, and I actually contacted the Elder youth coach and asked him, "Hey, did you see the news? You see Chris? This was his wrestler after he left me."
Right.
And I said, "Did you ever remember him having any issues with anger issues?" And he said, "You know what? No, I don't remember any anger."
Wow.
Yeah. And he said he worked closely with him. Now, the only thing I can think of to explain this was maybe he worked close with him in practice, and maybe he didn't really. I'll tell you what probably happened. He probably coached him in the corner. He saw him get angry when he would lose, and took it as, oh, this is just typical behavior of other kids who would get angry when they lost.
Right.
And then he would make a beeline and not have a conference with the parent. Because a lot of times after the match is over, I'll go walk over and talk to the parents and say, this is what I saw, and this is what I saw that he did good, this is what I saw that he did bad, and this is what we need to work on. And that's not typical. A lot of coaches don't do that. So,
would you think that Elder, because Elder is a large organization, do you think that it just may have been so large that after the match was over, there just really wasn't?
Yes, but at the same time, he did point out that he worked closely with him.
Okay.
But I don't. It would not surprise me if he didn't have those quick little talks with the parents right after. Most coaches, as soon as a match is over, they talk to the kid briefly, then they send the kid off.
Because you've got a next
and
kid
then you have
coming
another,
up for
right.
a match.
They
right.
might have 24 or more. They might have 3 or 4 dozen kids.
Really?
Yeah, especially elder.
Right.
They might have 4 dozen kids. They've sent 50 kids to our tournament one year.
Okay, so in practice, practice is just practice. There's no issues of anger.
Not at practice.
Not in a practice.
No, and let me point out too. Every once in a while, you get a rare case where kids are just. I shouldn't say rare, but you always have those kids that fight during practice.
Right.
And you always have to talk to them and say, "Listen, you guys, it's just practice. Get along."
Right.
And you have to. Never had that issue with Chris ever. It was only him lashing out after a loss at tournaments.
And it wasn't lashing out at the fact that he lost or that he only got a bronze and not the gold. He was lashing out at his parents.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he would be upset after a match.
Okay.
Let me address that. There was one time, and I thought this was normal too, and all these years later, I've never had to do it ever again. This one time, and it only happened once, and I think the only reason it happened once is because the way I handled it.
Wow.
Okay, so at this point, I'm getting to know Chris pretty well and how he reacts, right? So he loses a match. And one of the post-match procedures in wrestling is you're supposed to come to the center, shake hands before the referee raises the winner's hand.
Right.
And that is an actual thing in the rule book.
You have to.
Yeah, you must come to the center of the mat, shake hands before getting a hand raised or having your opponent get his hand raised. So he lost the match, and he's walking to the center, and he has his fists clenched, and his arms, all of his muscles in his arms were clenched and solid, almost to the point of shaking. And he was fighting back the tears, but you could tell he was in full cry mode, like he was just about to go full cry, with that grimace and everything on the face.
Yeah.
And he walks back to the middle, and he looks up at the kid, and I could tell he had that look of, I want to rip this kid's head off.
Right.
And I just knew it was coming. I just knew it. And I could see him start to cock back.
No.
And in youth wrestling, the mats are so small, you are close.
Right.
As a coach, mat side. And as he cocked back, I leaped out onto the mat and grabbed his arm to keep him from hauling off on this kid.
Oh, man!
And I remember yelling at him so loud that afterwards I was a little embarrassed at myself.
Right.
Because I was like, don't you dare ever do that again. Now you shake his hand. And then he shook the kid's hand, and I said, now you go shake the coach's hand. I was actually screaming this to him while standing in the middle of the mat. In the middle of the mat.
Front and center.
Yeah, and it was such a loud scream. I was so angry because it was so unsportsmanlike to try to punch somebody in the face. You know? Totally. It's like
you had your chance and now it's over.
It's the pinnacle of unsportsmanlike behavior. You know, I remember when we played soccer. After a game was over, everybody would line up. And you would pass each other and shake each other's hand or slap each other's hand or whatever and say good game to each and every kid. And I remember like one incident in all of my years, 12 years of playing soccer, where a kid, as he was walking by the one kid that he got into with in the game, just hauled off and socked him. And I remember it being a huge incident. Parents and coaches all involved were coming in and, I can't believe you did that, and you shake his hand, and just totally embarrassed and outraged and all that kind of stuff.
We used to go by and slap hands, and we'd be like, you suck.
Wow.
This is your dad's team.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so
that was unsportsmanlike.
Yes. And here's the thing. Here's the crazy thing. In my first year of coaching, I thought him doing that. I thought, well, I'm going to have to, this is something I'm going to have to contend with as a coach.
You have to learn. how to deal with this in the future. 'Cause
And I
apparently it's
figured-
going to happen every year.
Right. And I figured, every coach has a kid like this. But now, in my 11th year, I can tell you, and everybody listening out there in Radio Land, he was the only kid I ever had to catch a fist on.
Wow. That's amazing.
Nobody ever, since then, has ever got into a brawl after a match, ever.
I don't, in the years that I wrestled, I never had ever heard of anybody ever getting into a fight. Not saying that it hasn't happened
after a match.
After the match, it was and all the matches that I'd been at, because when you're finished with your match, we would sit there and wait for the rest of our teammates.
Yeah.
To finish up as well. And a lot of times we didn't. When I wrestled, we didn't necessarily go to tournaments all the time, but we would meet with another school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we'd wrestle against that.
It's called a duel.
Okay, against that school. And then I think I was only involved in 2 tournaments, 1 per year. But that was about all.
And that's typical when you get into the junior high and high school. They do a lot of duels and not very many, just a couple tournaments per year. At the youth level, unfortunately, in Cincinnati, there's way too many tournaments and not enough duels.
There's just a lot of money.
I personally am going to try to change that. But anyway, that's just...
Right.
But
so when the duels, we would have the duels, and I would sit there and watch every single one of my teammates wrestle. It was my turn, and then when I was finished, then I'd watch the rest of them wrestle.
Right.
And out of all these duels and out of all these matches, I had never, ever once seen anything that was remotely, other than there was a suplex, but he was called on that.
Right, and during the match, there could be illegal...
They were maneuvers,
right?
things,
And they get called by the referee, and then they continue to wrestle after somebody gets administered a penalty or something like that. Right. So, but
I don't think emotions weren't flying. People were upset. I mean, guys were upset and things were upset, but
they always shook hands afterwards.
Yeah,
and the handshaking thing. The only incident I've ever had in all these years, and just to give you some perspective on the numbers we're talking about. I don't do stats much anymore, but I have in the past done stats for the youth, where it would be wins and losses.
Right.
I wouldn't get any more in depth than that, just wins and losses. And so if there's a win, that's a match. If there's a loss, that's a match. Well, when we had 45 kids on our team, in one season we had 1,000 matches.
Oh.
And I coached almost every one of them. In one season, 1,000 matches.
Wow.
And I've been doing this for 11 years. So if I'm averaging, let's just say 1,000 matches per year for 11 years, it's 10,000 matches at least.
Maybe 11.
In 10,000 matches, I had to catch one fist. And that was Chris Cornell.
That's amazing. Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about that, though.
And that's only youth. I've also been coaching junior high and high school. Yeah. So 10,000 is a very modest number we're talking. Very modest.
And that's a large enough number to get a good feel for...
Now, I've broken up fights, but there's a difference between 2 kids getting so heated that they end up kind of going a little bit too far.
Right.
And some kid trying to punch another kid in the face while they're trying to shake hands.
I mean, that would be a sucker punch.
A total sucker punch.
Right.
He almost sucker punched this kid.
Wow.
The only reason he didn't is because I saw it coming, and as he cocked back, I lunged out there to grab his fist. Or his arm or whatever. But anyway. So we're talking about Chris Cornell here, the one that just as a 20-year-old man.
Well, they're referring to him in 3 names. Christopher Lee Cornell. They're giving him three names. 3 names.
Oh,
you know
boy.
how that goes. Once they call you by your first, middle, and last name,
it's over.
It's no good.
You're going down in history and infamy.
Just before the show, Carrie and I watched 6.5 minutes of the Raw news feed that WLWT here, local Channel 5 News, had met up with Chris's father here last week.
Mm-hmm.
And interviewed. They sat down, in his house. He was on the couch. The camera was in his grill. They get so close, within 6 inches of your face, and the lights were on. You couldn't see the reporter because all the reporter was doing was just getting what they call raw feed. We're going to just start talking. I'm going to ask you questions. The camera's going to be on you. Say whatever's on your mind. We're going to record it all, and then we may use some of it. We may use none of it. But there may be little snippets that we can use throughout this 6.5 minutes that we're going to have this talk, if you will. And during that raw feed, I haven't...
It was the first time I saw it.
Right, and I haven't been... It was the first time I saw it,
and
too.
he's been interviewed several times. The exclusive was Channel 12. They initially got an interview, like literally banged on his door. He answered it, and they started throwing questions at him. He started answering them. A lot of that footage was initially like Glenn Beck just brought up Chris Cornell. I think it was either today or yesterday.
Yesterday. Well, you told. Well, today is Saturday, so it was Thursday.
Okay.
Because you told me as I was leaving Thursday. Right.
And they actually played a couple of clips of his dad. That was a different interview than the 6 minutes I just saw.
Okay.
And one of the things that he said in that initial interview is that he's surprised that they didn't kill him. And a lot of people were really confused on that. And we're trying to read into what that meant. And knowing the parents the way I do, which is not very well. I mean, these are people that I haven't seen in 10 years, but not much changes with adults. Chris is 20 now, and I knew him when he was 9 and 10, so a lot could change with him. But adults,
Well, and the reason why I brought up the interview right now is because I personally see a parallel between 9 and 10 and his 19 and 20.
I could see that.
And the parallel is from what his dad described Chris at 20 and what Chris's life is like at 20.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And if anybody out there, and we're talking about different culture. When I was 17, the first thought in my mind was I needed to get my own apartment and get the hell out of Dodge. That was my mind.
We
17,
are living in a different world now.
I had my own car. I had a full-time job at Kroger's, working 40 hours a week. I bought my own car. That my mom helped me to get that, but I did pay for it. I paid for my own insurance, my own gas, and then as soon as I could get out, I was out and on my own. I've been on my own ever since.
Well, my best friend Jeff, growing up.
Right.
He, I'll never forget, because he's like 3 years older than me. Maybe
the Jeff
2.
we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's either 2 or 3 years older than me. So I was like still...
Right. He was in my grade.
I was still several years away from graduating, and he was graduating.
Right.
And I'll never forget being kind of shocked when his dad was like, you can stay here if you go to college, and we're okay with that. But if not, you're going to pay us rent, and if you can't do that, you're out of here. Yeah, and I remember being like, what? And then on top of that, I guess being raised the way he was, he only paid rent for a very short time before he was out into an apartment.
Yeah.
He was the first one of my friends that was living on his own.
Right.
Now, he was 2-3 years older than me, so a lot of my other friends were too young to do that. But yeah, he was the first friend that I knew that was living on his own in an apartment. I remember thinking, wow, it's like weird.
Absolutely.
But it's not like that anymore.
Yeah, my first
he was
place.
18.
If I were first place, $375 a month.
Yeah.
Making that happen. Car broke down. Had to walk to work.
Yeah.
Had to keep going to work to pay the bills to make it happen. I mean, there was just
that's the way life was.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff coming down on you. But
so now, how is that different from Chris Cornell?
Well,
right. According to the interview,
according to his father, who I'm going to take as credible, and he seemed very candid, and I think that maybe
knowing him the way I know him,
right,
which was coaching his son and working closely with the parents to teach him wrestling and get to know them that way. It sounded all genuine. He was being very genuine.
Yeah, and when you're in front of the camera, and he didn't say this right away, because I know as soon as the camera comes on, people get this deer in the headlight looks. And then you got to start talking, and then once you get them talking and they start talking, they'll forget about the camera. And that's what it looked like he was doing.
Yeah, he sounded exactly the way I remembered him.
And he made the comment that his son... At first he said his son doesn't have any friends, and then he said he's friends with the cat, and he hangs out with his mom all day. I thought that was kind of odd, and then he made the comment that he's seasonal work at Kohl's, and he's not working, and it's in and out, and then towards the end of the interview he said, well, he only had one friend. Apparently that turned out to be the FBI agent.
Right.
So Chris is living at home, according to his father, cooped up in the house, not going anywhere, not having any money. He claims that he helped count his money with him, and he had $1,200 from something.
From just saving up from working his seasonal job.
And he was going to buy a car with that money, but the gun cost $1,700. And where did the
$500 come from?
However, the reports are that he had 600 rounds of ammunition and materials to build a pipe bomb, and just all this other stuff with him. And he was an ISIS sympathizer. He wasn't. He hasn't been classified officially as someone who is part of ISIS. He's just an alleged sympathizer.
Right. I'd love to know a lot more background on what got him even thinking about these world political events.
Right. Oh, and that was something else his dad said in the interview. His dad said, yeah, he talked to me about, Islam and the peaceful religion, and he would say things to me about it, and it was fine with me.
He said he mocked him.
Oh, that's right, he did.
He said he mocked him.
He said, so his dad mocked him.
And the way he said it, he felt like he felt bad. He felt bad about doing that.
Well, now.
Right. Now he felt bad.
Hindsight.
Even I kind of mocked him. That's what he said.
Right.
Even I kind of mocked him on the whole, because they're not. This is not an Islamic family.
This is. I don't know. A lot of you.
He grew up in Price Hill.
Right. A lot of you don't know anything about Cincinnati, and
don't know nothing about Chris Cornell.
And Cincinnati is the furthest thing from a map that you would ever. Oh, hey, I'm going to go visit Cincinnati. Now I know this. I understand, but there's something extremely unique about Cincinnati that I have never, and I've traveled the world, I've traveled the country, and I've seen many cities.
Things about Cincinnati.
And there's one thing that you will, if you find it, let me know, but I have never found something called the West Side. When you come to the west side of Cincinnati, there's just something different about it, and we
eat geta here, and every time I ask people that are not from Cincinnati if they've ever had geta, they always have the exact same response. What is geta? They've never even heard of it. I just had a geta pizza last night.
Well, there you go.
Anyway.
But no, West Side is a unique thing, and I'm not going to get into all of it, but he is from the West Side.
Typical West Side. He's from, he grew up in Price Hill.
Catholic. Protestant, and huge. You gotta understand. The west side of Cincinnati is huge Catholic.
If you're not from Cincinnati, I don't care if you're Catholic or not. You would never believe how big and strong the Catholic community is around here.
When the fall comes, there's all the fall festivals, all the German festivals, at all the Catholic churches. There's it's just amazing at the community on the west side. And there's a lot of support in that. And for him to say, I want to be Islamic. What?
Well, his dad said, I think he was just searching for something.
Yeah, he was lost. He was looking,
Yeah.
and he had a lot of time on his hands.
Stumbled on this. Yeah, I mean, if you only have seasonal work, you're 20. You're like 2 years out from graduation. I mean, you've had 2 years of pretty much not doing anything.
Nothing.
It's a result of unemployment.
There's no joke about that.
Yeah.
The unemployment of young males in this culture, this society right now, is through the roof. It's probably the highest it's ever been.
So this environment that's created by our politicians who are burying our free market with regulations and ending up causing the economic turmoil that we've had for so many years now, which has resulted in this stagnant economy, which results in really high unemployment, low employment, is causing all these kids coming out of high school and college to end up sitting around, living with their parents, not having to work seasonal jobs and deliver pizzas or whatever, and just not being able to earn enough money and have way too much free time.
There's some stats that came out this week in it was an article that was written earlier, but during the 1960s, almost every single male in America got up and went to work. 5 in 100 males did not. It's 5% of the male population did not go to work. So 95% of males got up every day and went to work during the 1960s.
Okay.
Fast forward to the 2000s, and it jumps to 11% of males not working. And from 2000 till now, it's 16 to 17% of
and nobody
males
knows these numbers
not working.
For sure. Like what they really, I think the way that they get these numbers is really, I think that they're constantly, politicians are constantly trying to fake these numbers to make them look better than they are.
Well, this came from the Pew Research Center, where they did their research, and they did these polling numbers on
who's working. And
yeah,
who's
I don't
not.
know how they get it, but they get it somehow. And I don't know what else other to say that there is. That I can find more information to lend credibility to this, and I'm just using these numbers that coincide with the extremely high unemployment rate.
I would think it would not surprise me if there was some genie in a bottle somewhere or whatever, where some magician who I could say, I want to know the actual real number
Right.
in America. And if they came back with 30%, it would not surprise me.
No, I wouldn't be shocked either.
Where 1 in 3 men wake up every morning and sit around in their pajamas.
Right.
And
I'm saying
play on the video games.
Right, and I'm saying the number 16 because that's what they researched.
That's what they're spewing at you.
However, when they also tell you, the administration tells you that unemployment is now down to 5% or 5.5% or whatever.
They're not saying that, are they?
It's something.
Right, but it's way lower than what it really is because
which we did the numbers on this show. What did we come up with?
I don't even know.
We came up with like 40%.
I could believe that.
I mean,
like I said, 30%, 40%. It would not surprise me, especially when you consider how many people can survive and live every day and get fat.
That was something else that
off
was
of
said.
welfare
Right.
and
all these
EBT
people
cards and
everybody's eating, everybody's living, everybody's sleeping. They're in a warm house. They're watching flat screens. They got computer internet. Got a car.
Go through the poorest of rundown neighborhoods on the west side of Cincinnati, and you will see satellite dish.
Right.
On every house. Sometimes, if it's a 4-family, there'll be 4 different satellite dishes on the same house.
Now we're definitely not making a correlation between the economy and Chris. However,
no, what I'm saying
I think it definitely is an outside contributing factor.
Oh, absolutely. I want to make a connection right here, right now. When you have so many young men who really, truly want to feel like they're contributing to society.
As a man, you got to feel like you're slaying the dragon. Like you're
Yeah,
out there
you
making
go.
it happen.
Right. And not only are they sitting around... Now, obviously, even when I was a kid, if you told me... Well, let's just say somebody handed you a check for $10 million. Say, here you go. You never have to work a day in your life the rest of your life. The rest of your life you don't have to work. I would have been like, boom! I am golden. Problem is after a couple of years, I'm going to feel like I'm not contributing to this. I'm going to feel bad. And I think that you add... Now, that's $10 million. Okay? And I might be able to do something with that is contributing. Take all that money away. No, I mean, right, as a wiser person. Like young people that go out and they'll...
If you gave me $20 million or $10 million when I was 20...
You're gonna not
the next day I would be broke,
right?
I'm sure,
and you wouldn't have anything to show.
No.
Well, you'd have a bunch of cars and stuff like that.
It'd be Brewster's Millions,
right? It would be terrible. So, no, but now take away all that money, and now you got a bunch of broke kids. And when I mean broke, I mean they're not starving. They just don't. They don't have. They feel like they don't have what they would like.
Right.
They're getting just enough to survive off of either the government or their parents.
And this is the
whatever.
time. This is the time, especially when I started working at 15, at the rent-a-kid thing. They would rent me out to old folks to fix their homes or clean or paint or something. And then at 16, I started working as a bagger at Kroger's. At 17, 18, 19, by the time I was 19... I had already had 4 years of work experience.
Right.
At 19.
I started at 16.
That's huge. He's 20, and he doesn't have minimal to none to part nothing. Some of these kids don't have anything.
He had a seasonal job.
Seasonal, which means he was working through Christmas at Kohl's.
Apparently, when he first said seasonal, I thought, landscaping or something.
Then he said Kohl's.
Yeah, which means he wasn't even really doing manly work.
No, to work for a man. How many?
Is that sexist?
No. How many young strapping lads in their 20s decide that working at a department store with clothes is something that it was the furthest thing from... Men don't even like to shop normally.
Yeah.
Stick me in the women's department with shoes?
Oh.
I gotta...
Remember Al Bundy?
Oh, do I?
he had to try to fit women with feet that were too big.
Huge fat feet, and they wouldn't admit how fat and huge their foot was.
So he would have to jam shoes that were too small around.
Right. He should have taken the number 5 sticker and put it on the number 10 shoe.
There you go. There's a company years ago. They're still around. You know how they made it big? It was a clothing store for women, and they made it big by just taking all the sizes and shifting them, so that a woman who would normally be a size 14 is now a size 7
in that store.
Only in that store.
Only in that store.
So the women were like, I love this place. Look at me, I'm a size 1.
We bought... there's I can't think of the name. There is a store like that, and the wife and I bought her mom a shirt or dress or something. And it happened to come from that store. But not intentionally. Her mom isn't a big woman.
Mm-hmm.
But we just got it there. And she wanted to return it for a different color, so we took her back to return it. She's like, "You bought it here?" And I was like, "No, I didn't. I don't know. What is this?"
What?
Well, it was at the big lady store.
Oh, that's a huge insult.
And I didn't get it. I didn't.
Yeah, men don't get that. You know, I wouldn't have got it until my wife pointed it out one day. Like, yeah, that's the big girl store.
Wow.
But it wasn't the big girl store though. This was something. This is just a typical popular. I wish I could remember the name of it. I'd name drop it right now, but I'm not. I don't know these things. I didn't stop to think. I should remember that. But But my wife pointed out she loved it, and so do so many other women, because they're told by the clothing that they read,
right,
that they're a lower number than they're supposed to be. So anyway, how do we get off of this subject? Anyway.
But, and this is the whole thing. It's women love to shop.
Oh, Kohl's. He was working at Kohl's.
Working at Kohl's.
Seasonal.
That's. I'll tell you what he should have been doing. The coolest guy, and I'll bring this up. One of the neatest guys that I ever knew, that I used to hang out with back in my early 20s, worked in construction.
Okay.
And he was just an all-around rough, leathernecking, having fun, just goofing. But when it came to hard work, man, would he roll up his sleeves and just dig in. It didn't matter what needed to be. If your car had stopped on the side of the road, he'd pull over and pick it up and move it. whatever it took. It was just an all-around. When you think of an all-around, I don't want to say redneck because it's a connotation, but just a roughneck.
The redneck has a racist connotation to it.
Yeah, but it's like that all-American roughneck kind of guy that everybody loves. He had one of the hardest, toughest jobs I had ever known. I mean, he would tell me about the times when he's working. It's 10 degrees above zero, and he's outside.
Yeah, I would think that given what I know of Chris, he could have benefited from a job like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, not only that, but he could have benefited from going into the Marines.
A lot of people would hear that and say, "Are you nuts? This is a guy who wanted to attack the Capitol. Last thing we need to do is give him that kind of training."
Well, they would have hedged that off at the pass by getting him before ISIS got him.
Okay.
Oh, so now I'm making a case. All American men forced at 17 and a half, 18 into the military.
I actually made that argument in school when I was in high school. Like, I had just recently signed up for the Marines.
I'm being facetious, by the
way. And I remember everybody being shocked and outraged when I said it should be mandatory.
Yeah.
I talked to a Russian guy who was from the Soviet Union.
Right.
And I said, "Ooh, did you ever know anybody in the military?" And he was like,
all of us.
Yeah, we were. If you're a man, it's mandatory. It was like 2-year mandatory.
Same thing in Italy.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely identical. And the guys would tell me that the amount of money that they paid them, he said, barely paid for 3 to 4 packs of cigarettes a month.
Oh, wow.
A month. But everything was free, and they didn't want for anything.
Right.
And they got
It was like that in the Marines.
A little bit of money.
See, everything was free. Like, we had 3 squares a day at the chow hall.
Right.
And we had barracks to live in. But we all got paid enough that if we wanted to, we could eat 3 squares a day out at Burger King.
Right.
And
because Burger King is on every single military installation in the world.
Which
I don't know who was able to get that one done. If you don't believe me, you ask another military. There is 0 other fast food chains in
McDonald's,
the world. In the world.
But Burger King, everyone.
Burger King was on all the bases in all of Italy.
No Wendy's.
Germany.
No Wendy's. No
Germany.
Taco Bell.
In the world.
Just Burger King.
In the world.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. So, but yeah, I mean, it's weird. But anyway, because of what I know of Chris and what I know about his disrespect towards his parents, I think doing a 4-year active duty tour would have helped him, but because of the anger issues and him being so susceptible to becoming a jihadist and everything like that, it worries me.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, and if you look back, he's been nurturing this, or whether it's, I don't want to call it DNA, but whether some people have a certain disposition and then the parents nurture that issue, and then it grows to become.
So you're saying
what
was
it
he
is.
born? I do believe that he was born with problems. I think that he has some psychological issues that he could have been born with. He was always really quiet, and all the people that I've known that knew him said, "Oh yeah, he's really quiet." In the interviews, he's a quiet boy. You know,
Well, and his dad said he had no friends.
they did an interview with a kid that went to school with him at Oak Hills, and he said, "Oh, you know, he didn't really have any friends, and I kind of knew him, and I was kind of friendly with him, but yeah, he was really quiet and always by himself and to himself." But when he was only 9, 10, I barely even knew what he sounded like. I remember him. He started crying during a match. This is kind of weird because I never had this happen before with any other kids. He started crying during a match, and I went up to him. I said, "Are you injured? You know, what's going on?" And he was holding his head. I said, "You get your head knocked around? You know, you." He said, "No, my ears hurt because every time the ref blows the whistle, it's ear piercing. It's hurting my ears."
Wow.
And I thought that was odd, and I thought, yeah, I mean this, because a lot of times the matches are reffed by kids who don't even have whistles. They just yell wrestle.
Right.
And after when time's up, they say stop or time.
Right.
And the kids stop. Well, this was a tournament that had real referees with real whistles, and they're loud.
Right.
And I remember we had to stop the match because it was hurting his ears so bad.
Holy smoke!
Yeah, and that might have been a part of something wrong with his head.
I thought you were going to say you had to stop it because of the voices he was hearing.
Could have been. I don't know, man. And you know what? After talking to so many people about Chris Cornell and reflecting on what it is I'm talking about, and then hearing his dad in that heartfelt interview where he's just like talking about how he doesn't have any friends and he's a good kid and all this kind of stuff, and I have not seen or talked to any of that family since he was 10, so about 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
I start to think, when I was 20 years old, if I had done anything bad, or regardless whether, would I have wanted somebody to talk about me as if they knew me when they hadn't seen me since I was 10?
Oh, so you're saying as if Chris Cornell would hear this interview.
Yeah, let's say he heard this interview. Would he be like, "Come on, Kerry, I know I was bad when I was 9 and 10. I knew that I treated my parents bad. I cussed them out or whatever, and I shouldn't have. But now I'm 20, I'm different. You don't know. Since then, I've grown a lot. Since then, I've matured. I'm not like that anymore."
You have grown. You've grown into a ISIS
jihadist.
terrorist. A jihadist.
Right.
No, well,
but I can tell you this right now. When I was 20, I would have said that to somebody. I would have said, "Look, yeah, dude, when I was 10, I did some things that I look back on, and I'm like, ooh, wow, I shouldn't have done that. But I was only 10.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me wonder.
The only thing that I can think about...
It might be an over-judgmental.
The only thing I can think about looking back was maybe, yeah, I'm sorry, man, I really beat the crap out of my brother here and there and kicked the cat and put tape on the cat's feet.
That is the funniest thing, though. Putting tape on cats' feet.
The bottom of their paw.
Now, PETA would look at that and
you could do Scotch tape, nothing harmful. Just
right. We're not talking about physical harm to the cat.
We're talking about gorilla duct tape.
Oh, no. Yeah, we're not talking about well, that is torture.
Oh, yeah.
Putting tape on a cat's paws.
Scotch tape, that is.
Yeah,
just a little piece.
Because cats' paws are so sensitive.
Dude, they can't take it.
Yeah, they don't like that.
Not at all. Wow. See, this is what being a boy is all about. Just
right. So if somebody knew you for a year when you were 10, and then something happened to you where you landed in national news, maybe you ran as a politician, and then
I fear that.
Yeah. So you end up in the public spotlight,
right.
And some schmuck that only knew you for 1 year when you were 10 years old got interviewed
wow.
and said, Oh, let me tell you about Brian.
Oh, dude, they dug up Mrs. Wesselman.
They dug her up.
Yeah, they want to interview her
exhumed-
on me from the 5th and 6th grade. They
her
exhumed
body and did the Weekend at Bernie's interview.
but he didn't talk. Well, he did talk. They moved his mouth.
Weekend. Yeah, that's right. They like a puppet. Yeah. Well, they didn't do it exactly like a puppet.
They held his head, the back of his head, and they jerked his head to make his mouth move.
Oh, I thought they were just nodding.
They did do that too.
Yeah, they did make him nod.
Okay, maybe they didn't make his mouth move.
In
part 7.
How many Weekend at Bernie's were there?
Weekend at Bernie's part 7. Death Remastered.
What kind of embalming fluid? And that's the thing about Bernie. Well, they did poison him. Didn't they poison him?
The boys didn't, but the mob did. Like there's bad
guys. They
injected
injected him with something.
Right.
So you could make an argument that it is realistic. There is no rigor mortis, and there is no...
No. All the fluids of your body come out. When I say fluids, I mean...
Your precious bodily fluids. For those of you that are not Stanley Kubrick fans, that is a tribute to
Stanley.
The what's the movie? How I Love the Bomb.
Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove, or How I
Learned to Love the Bomb.
I was trying to figure out the exact wording. Yeah. Because you have to love the bomb. But anyway.
You do.
So have we hit on all the... I feel like I don't want to leave anything out. Should we play the clip of his dad? We could stop it periodically to or no. We got the whole 6-minute interview of his dad. Which, no, I mean, it's very informative, especially for me to reflect on,
Right. Well, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying before. It's really telling how
raising a child and how does that turn? What kind of man or woman comes out of a childhood of being raised a certain way? Like, have you ever heard of a rainbow child?
Raising a Rainbow.
Raising a Rainbow
is a website, and I was shocked.
And we're not saying that this was how Chris was raised.
No, but I was absolutely shocked when I lived in Los Angeles, and this lady was interviewed and came out and said, I could tell that my son was extremely effeminate at the age of 1.
Which,
when he was
right there,
first born.
I've raised a child. She's 8 now. She's going to turn 9 soon.
Right. And
that's not possible.
She knew
not one
that he was gay when he was born. That's what she says. So she started a website called Raising a Rainbow.
Maybe 4, 5, 6 you could start to see signs maybe.
And so she started blogging about what her son, the Rainbow, is doing and the girly things, and she dresses him up and the lipstick and the fingernail polish and
this is exactly what she wanted from day one,
right?
And was just looking for any excuse possible to do it. Anything that wasn't complete Chuck Norris type of manly behavior was effeminate to her.
Because I know of boys who are boys. We both know a handful of boys that are not. They're not Chuck Norris. They're probably not going to be playing on any football team anytime soon. But that doesn't make them any less of a boy or a man. I mean, look at Albert Einstein. I mean, he was a man. But he was into numbers.
He would be what a lot of people in the 80s would consider a geek.
Correct. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that doesn't make you gay.
Right.
Or homosexual.
Like,
it doesn't make that.
He's not, I don't know, what's a really manly... Look, he's not playing in the dirt. He must be gay.
He's not chewing tobacco. When's he going to take his first chaw?
He's not doing that. He must be gay. Yeah, I could definitely see.
Well, let me do this one. Since we're on the whole Islam and Muslim thing, I'm going to segue to this. I ran across this earlier this week, and I found I don't know, I had a knee-jerk gut reaction. I was really upset about it, and I played it for Kerry, and he didn't seem to have the same reaction.
Yeah, I have a little different. It's just my philosophy. But so what is this clip about?
John Boehner, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, opens up the Senate floor with the House floor with a prayer, an opening prayer, and apparently he decided to invite not an imam, but a Islamic dude,
whatever they're called, cleric,
and this is how this thing went. Just listen real quick, and then we'll kind of decipher this and go back and forth on it.
The prayer will be offered today by our guest chaplain, Imam Hamad Shabli, Islamic Society of Central New Jersey, Monmouth Junction, New Jersey.
Peace and the blessings of Allah be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Praise be to Allah, the cherisher, the sustainer of the world, the most gracious, the most merciful, master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship, and thine aid we seek. Guide us to the straight path. The God of all the prophets and the messenger says in the Quran, He does not place a responsibility on you greater than you can bear.
Yeah, and I can't bear anymore.
You know what? You just placed a responsibility on me more than I can bear, which is that of listening to that soundbite.
And it may sound like it was cut, because it was. That was 48 seconds that you just listened to, but the original time was 5 minutes.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You just
I'm telling you folks, he
had long pauses, which is a technique we learn when learning about speeches.
Right. You
power pause. Brian taught me that.
Like that.
That's a power pause.
He did a lot of pausing. We don't do much of that here. We've got a machine gun type setup.
Well, the reason is because
we don't have enough time. We got too many words.
I have a family member that listens to this, and he listens to it until he falls asleep. It's after work and it's late, and he'll put it on.
Okay, so if we paused, he would actually start to doze. So we need to
wake up!
We need to keep him up!
Nope, he just woke up right there.
There you go. Knock it out.
So, Matthew, if you're out there,
props
you're
to you.
welcome. You're welcome.
Keep it going.
We just woke you up. So, anyway.
Okay. My number one issue with that right off the bat was that I said, how could they have this Muslim who's talking about praying to Allah, praying about prophets, and when he says the word prophet, he means Muhammad, and then he invokes the Quran, and all these things are going on in the Middle East, and all these problems with these Muslims, the terrorists, the hate, the beheadings, the killings, you do what? You bring this home? You bring this in my house? How dare you?
Yeah, I look at it. My first reaction was, well, would you have been okay if there was like a Christian priest or pastor?
When I even went so far as to throw out Buddha. Bring a Buddha dude in. I would be cool with a Buddha dude.
Put a Buddha.
How many heads have been cut off by Buddhists?
So you're more. It's not so much as why do we have a religious person in there doing a prayer. It's just why do we have a Muslim doing a prayer? And it's interesting. I need to probably talk more about my buddy, my coach buddy in wrestling, who is a Muslim. Because first of all, he's the nicest guy in the world. Really, like, no violent, evil bone in his body that I could. I mean, you would never think that getting to know him. And he brought up Chris Cornell today. said, "Have you heard about this guy?" I said, "Yeah, I coached him." He's like, "Really?" He said, "I'm a Muslim. I don't ever see these people. I don't know these people. I don't know what's going." Like, he just is dumbfounded by the whole thing.
You know, now that you say this will blow your mind. And if my sister's listening, well, props to you. She dated a man, a young lad, who was Muslim.
Okay.
I forgot all about that. And what's striking to me is he was very calm, very mild-mannered, very quiet. Dude prayed a lot.
Okay.
I mean, he was really into his religion. You couldn't bring alcohol or beer or tobacco or anything into his apartment. He was very strict, and he was an avid bodybuilder.
Okay.
And he was huge.
Okay.
I mean, he was like, you see pictures of him in Saudi Arabia or the Middle East as a boy, and he's this tiny stick figure. And then from 17 as a stick figure to 19, he's competing with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
Just strange. Anyways, very good guy. I never had a issue with him at all. He's really super nice.
Yeah, it's a really weird thing where you meet Muslims wherever you go, and they're nice people. They don't look at you funny at all. Not that I've ever seen. They don't treat you differently. Like, oh, well, he's not Muslim. It's just like
here's my problem though. Anybody that reads the Quran and lives by the Quran, like as Christians, we read the Bible and we live by the Bible, and we live by the Word of God. If you are reading and you're listening and you're reading the Quran and you are living by the Quran, I have a major, major problem with you.
Right, and I haven't read the Quran myself or anything like that, so all I can do is just... When somebody puts up quotes from the Quran, and obviously some of them are probably taken out of context, some of them probably aren't, and they put the quotes up online and say, look what they're teaching them, and it's talking about killing those that you can't convert and all that kind of stuff. And then there's those that will come on and comment and say, well, that's not in the Quran, or those are lies, or it's taken out of context. It's like, I don't know, but it seems like there are...
I bought the Quran. I have one here.
Okay.
Remember we were going to try and flush it down the toilet?
Well, we're going to try that experiment.
Right.
Try it. Not.
I still have it. That's no joke, folks.
Yeah, there was. For those of you that don't know, who are either really young or just a low information voter.
Don't tell me that was that long ago.
It was a while ago.
What?
It was like 2003.
Was it before or after Abu Ghraib?
It was at Abu Ghraib.
Okay, so it was during the human pyramids.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
We're
going to have to explain all this stuff for all the low information voters.
Yeah.
So basically, there was this period of time
back
after,
in the day,
after 9/11,
right,
where everybody rallied around President Bush to do something about what happened with 9/11.
Right.
Where Democrats and liberals had to take a break from the Bush bashing because they were angry because their boy Al Gore lost. So they had to take a break.
Right.
So there was a period of time where they couldn't attack Bush because of 9/11. So they had to figure out how to get back to work, trying to destroy America and destroy Bush.
So they attempted and did a decent job of trying to destroy the military.
They went back to it. They used Iraq as the springboard to get back to the bashing Bush.
Right.
So what happened was we went to Afghanistan in 2002, right after 9/11, in response to 9/11. In 2003, Bush decided we need to remove Saddam, which, if you go to Sick Bias, I have a long, nice article that I wrote explaining why we went to Iraq and why we did, whether or not you can go and hindsight it to death.
We had massive support across the world for this.
Yeah, and you can
even the Democrats. See, this is the crazy thing. Democrats signed on to it.
I know.
And now they're signing off to it, and now all of a sudden Obama's back signing on to it again. He's making his own base absolutely insane.
Right, and the base are a bunch of low information voters who have the wrong information about Iraq. I just the other day got into a huge debate online with people about the wisdom of going to Iraq. And it's like, first of all, you need to know the whole timeline and all the facts. But anyway, so the liberals used that as a springboard to bash Bush again and got back to it. And during that time, there were some atrocities that were happening at some of the prisons in Iraq.
So you mean American military members were electrocuting, torturing, cutting off hands and heads, like ISIS does, like the radical Islamic jihadists. They were really getting them good.
Or like the Nazis were doing in the prison camps, the concentration camps.
Oh yeah, pulling fingernails.
No, basically they were taking pictures of hostages, mostly with hoods over their heads,
being beat to death.
No, they were in their underwear,
being clawed by tigers.
No, they were being put in poses in these photographs, and some of which would be considered degrading.
You mean like they were putting their face in the ground and just rubbing it in?
No, they made them get into, I would say, formations reminiscent of a cheerleading squad.
What? You gotta be kidding me.
And they called them butt pyramids. I'd love to know who coined that. Because some of the pictures were, they were in like tighty-whities, I think.
Yeah.
And then stacked on each other like a pyramid.
Right. And then the military would stand around and take pictures.
And this took a couple pictures.
Okay, so then after that, they would kill them one at a time off the top and knock them down pyramid style.
Knock them down with cannons?
Right.
No, in fact, they probably released them and let them go rejoin ISIS.
Son of a... You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, and they call that torture. And by the way, if you play music that is not pleasant to the ear, that's torture.
Yeah, apparently Justin Bieber had a very, very upsetting time because when he found out
that they would use Justin Bieber to soften up the interrogation.
They would play his music, and the terrorist would be, la, stop it! I give you up. You want who you want?
I name drop.
Name drop everyone. Just please stop with the torture.
And so the argument is you shouldn't use Justin Bieber because it will cause the terrorist to do anything to stop it, give false, just any information. You tell me what you want to hear, I will tell you, just make it stop. Just make it stop. And so that's why it's very controversial using Justin Bieber music. Very controversial.
However, waterboarding is not.
Let me tell you something about waterboarding. We would waterboard our own soldiers as training.
Carrie, I was led to believe by the media that the waterboarding, it's torture, it kills people.
Well, it doesn't kill anybody, and that's why they waterboard, because it doesn't kill you.
Well, that's not what I learned.
Yeah.
And they said they waterboard everybody all the time.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually did some research on the definition of torture. And I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not going to recite it, but you can search it. Do a little Google search. Bust out the old smartphone right now. When people say America doesn't torture, well, when you look up the ridiculous definition of torture, of course we torture!
Okay.
I should look it up right now.
Well, just to let you folks know, out of all the screaming heads in the media going to town about waterboarding, apparently there were only two people that we waterboarded, and one was Al-Zawahiri, who gave up all kinds of information on bin Laden to make that capture. So we did it to 2 people, and it paid off immensely.
Okay, maybe we don't torture. It does say, now this definition, of course there's different definitions depending where you're looking.
See, he's not on the wiki. If you're on Wikipedia...
This is just a Google
right,
definition.
Because if you're on Wikipedia, poking somebody with a finger could be torture.
Well,
right.
There's the Chinese water torture, which is literally...
Oh, do you know what else is torture? That Chinese thing where you put your finger in either end?
That's called the Chinese finger trap.
And you can't get your fingers out!
Yeah, do that with all 4 fingers.
All
10 fingers.
Ah!
Okay, so anyway, the definition I have here of torture is the action or practice of inflicting severe pain on someone as a punishment or to force them to say or do something for the pleasure of the person. Okay, so based on this definition, not only is waterboarding not torture, but I can pretty safely say that America doesn't torture. And if anybody has tortured, and that's the thing, if an American official, like a military person, tortures a prisoner, a foreign prisoner, and actually does it,
right,
fits the definition of torture, and when it's found out that they did that, they are prosecuted and punished accordingly for torturing.
Right.
We can say we still don't torture because it is the policy that we don't torture, and that if we do torture and it's found that we actually, and I'm talking real torture here.
When you say we, you're speaking individuals in the realm of the military, individual people that commit the torture.
America as a country. When I say we,
right.
Yeah, right. We don't torture. And if you say, wait a minute, but that person, that colonel in charge of that prison,
he'll be
tortured.
Dealt with. Right, he'll be dealt with.
Well, yes, he did. He did torture, and we punished him for it because it is American policy not to torture.
Correct.
So, as long as I can say, look, we train our soldiers, and believe me, I was in the military. We are trained on what torture is. We're trained on what international law is, and we're trained not to violate these laws, and we're told that, hey, you're going to end up in the brig.
Right.
That's what we're taught. So when you got these bad apples that do it, they're dealt with, and then we move on. But what happens is you have anti-American liberals in America, American citizens who are against America. They want to tear the roof of the temple down on their heads. They say, well, look, we do torture. Look, this guy tortured. Well, yeah, but we didn't order him to, or if we did order him to, that person got dealt with. If Obama said, all right, we need to start torturing these people, he would be impeached.
Right. And
so the bottom line is America doesn't torture.
Now, if you remember, there was a guy, Boko Haram.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Boko Haram has an organization, if you will. And
it's an Islamic organization?
Oh, yeah.
And they are in Africa. Boko Haram is an African, is it Nigerian? Somewhere in Africa.
Yeah, Nigeria. Right.
A Nigerian Islamic organization that will... Brian's reading about it.
That will do things to you that you could never, ever imagine.
Well, they made the news several months ago because they, like about a half a year ago, for kidnapping an entire girls' school.
200.
Like, they went into an entire girls' school of, was it teenagers or elementary school?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were
very young.
Middle school
age,
yeah.
like 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
And they kidnapped all of them.
200.
And I don't even know what their demands were, but at the end of the day, they just went ahead and sold them off as either slaves, like sex slaves, or...
They kept them, and some of the women said, oh, no, we're fine. We're just going to stay.
Did they actually say that?
Well, that's what they're claiming they said.
They said, we told them they can go.
Yeah, and they didn't want to leave. Right.
But they didn't want to go. They want to stay with us.
And so this was made famous by, if you don't remember this story, you will now remember the story, hashtag bring back our girls.
Oh yeah, they tried to, and let me tell you something. They will not tell you this in the news. None of them girls came back.
No, and it's been dropped. And if you go to my Facebook, Brian Smith, or even Smyth Radio, facebook.com /Smyth Radio, you can see the article I put up there with Michelle Obama's picture holding the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. Well,
we learned something from that, didn't we?
Oh, we did.
Complete failure.
Because
you're not going to get anything done with Facebook hashtags or Twitter hashtags.
Epic, fail, noob, pwned. Am I missing one? I know I'm missing. There's a bunch more.
About what? What about?
About her being an epic fail.
She's an epic fail.
So apparently this week the Boko Haram is on the march, and he's taken over cities, and little towns, and villages, and whacking and hacking and tearing everything apart, killing hundreds of people. Men and women, lining them up and mowing them down and taking everything out of the cities they want and moving on through.
You know, I think that sounds very reminiscent of
Genghis Khan. Man, I was going to load that.
You didn't load it?
Rectal feeding.
That's all I got.
Oh, you know what? That's the catch-all.
I should be loading Genghis Khan every show.
Reminiscent of Genghis Khan. That is the great John Kerry, Secretary of State,
who once served in Vietnam.
Right. And the soundbite that we don't have loaded was from when he was about 25 years old or something like that.
He was given a talk on
to Congress. He was talking to Congress, and he was basically lying to Congress about torture and war crimes that America was committing in Vietnam.
They were killing.
He was bashing our war veterans, ensuring that they all got mistreated by the citizens of America as they returned.
Right. They were killing babies, killing women and children. It was. This is what he was claiming, and he said he was there, and he said he was a swift boat
captain or something.
Captain.
Yeah.
And the guys that were on the swift boat remember him,
and they said he was lying.
Yes. And so this was the swift boat thing.
Yeah.
Something.
Well, they called it the swift boat. They called, nowadays, liberals usually use this term. Whenever people from your past come out and destroy your political career
out of the woodworks,
they call that swift boating. If you ever heard of somebody getting swift boated, it's they're talking about what happened to John Kerry.
So it's reminiscent of
Genghis Khan.
There you
go. We got it. Reminiscent. Oh no! You need to load
just Genghis Khan.
No, you need to have the context. What was he talking about? The raping and burning of villages.
Boy, he went on a tirade.
So you rape the villages and you burn the children.
Yes,
something like that.
Yes, that's exactly
reminiscent of Genghis Khan.
So apparently, Boko Haram is at it again. He's been at it. He hasn't stopped.
It's not he. It's a group.
The organization. But the head of the group is.
No, Boko Haram is the name of the group.
I thought he was the head guy.
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
The name of the group.
Well, the group is on the march and rampaging through villages and not stopping. So hashtags don't work, by the way, folks. I know you want to think they do, but they don't.
They do work if you're just trying to participate socially in discussions.
True, that does
work. If you
work.
want to get physical things done, something done that requires physical force or physical labor, hashtag is all talk.
If you want to troll on the internet, a hashtag might work. But if you want to get something done in real life, I doubt hashtag is going to work that much. I mean, it may work, but you can't count on it to save somebody. You got to put effort into it. Something else about the Muslim, dude, this has been all week. This is Muslim week. I am now officially calling this week of the new year, the last week of second week of it's Muslim week. Duke University. Oh, this is going to make your head just...
I haven't heard this. Let's hear this.
Breaking news.
Oh, boy. Breaking news to me, anyway. Duke's in the news again.
Oh man. What the... Okay, we've got...
Somebody behind the window.
Here we go.
Somebody behind the window help Brian out.
Muslim call to prayer to sound at Duke University.
I saw this headline, but I didn't dig into the. I didn't have time to dig into the article.
I'm just gonna the first couple of sentences to let you know what the report is. This is a report from a Wall Street Journal, and also some others have reported on this as well. But here's how it starts off: a weekly call to prayer for Muslims will be heard at Duke University starting Friday. School officials said. Members of the Duke Muslim Student Association will chant the call known as Adhan or Azan from the Duke Chapel Bell Tower each Friday at 1 p.m.
Which is so. Help me out here.
Well, he has a microphone, and the call to prayer will last 3 minutes and be amplified through the speakers.
Which, if you've ever heard audio from the Middle East, Middle Eastern cities, they have that Muslim is the call to prayer 5 times a day.
Yeah,
and you could hear it echoing through the whole city.
Dude, if I heard that, I would honestly think that we were under attack.
Yeah, it's something you do not want to hear in America. I don't want to hear that crap in America.
No.
If you want to hear that crap, move to the Middle East because they do it 5 times a day there.
Right, you could hear it plenty. A Breitbart posted. It's a new initiative. Breitbart posted a statement from Duke University saying this is a new initiative to promote religious pluralism. Adhan will be chanted by the Duke Muslim Student Association.
Basically, what they're trying to do is to soften you up for the eventual Sharia law that we will all be under.
Oh, so that when they come from they wrap us up, we're okay with it. We're like, all right. You're just
right, because if you just like right now, if somebody just went and cut in, we interrupt this program to bring this special bulletin, we are now under Sharia law. From now on, everything else, burn it to the ground, all documents burn. We're just now under Sharia law.
Right.
It would probably be riots in the street. There'd be shock and awe among the community. But what you do is you soften up the citizenry by having the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day over the loudspeakers. We have air raid sirens all over.
Right.
We could convert those, retrofit them.
Right.
To just do a Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day.
And I want to let you all know out there, whoever the women, the NARAL ladies, women standing up for women's rights and not backing down to women's suffrage. When Sharia law kicks in, there's some medical procedures that will be taking place for women that you're not going to like. So just letting you know, look into the Sharia law, understand you will become property of any man, and if you're raped, you will be accused of provoking him.
Yes, that is
for
true.
raping you.
And
So-
in order to defend yourself, you better have 4 adult male eyewitnesses
that will confirm
that you've been raped.
that you've been raped. Otherwise, if you don't have 4,
Yeah, only 3, not good enough.
SOL.
Yes.
No paddles up the
Could
creek.
you imagine 3 independent adult males saying, "No, really, she really got raped, totally raped," and they're all like, they all have the right story, they were all there, but you don't have that 4th. Like, I count 3. Do you have your 4th?
Right.
Somewhere?
Right.
No, but it was just the 3 of us, and I'm telling you, we saw her get raped by that guy.
Right.
And the judge would have to say, well, I mean, I believe you guys. I don't think you're lying.
Right. Right.
But, I'm reading this law here, and I can't make law. I can only I'm not
Obama. I'm not
the
problem
emperor.
is
The problem
is that I'm
is-
the president, not the emperor.
That's the problem. That is the problem. So what I have to do is find this man innocent based on the fact that you only have 3 witnesses and not 4.
Right. Because and this is the beginning, this is how it starts.
The problem is that, I'm the President of the United States. I'm not the Emperor of the United States.
See, that's the problem. As an imam, you don't have the problem because you will be
Emperor for the most part.
yeah, and that's how it goes down.
De
Hey,
facto.
yeah, absolutely. What did you know that in the pop culture news, Cher came out, said she's got a solution for all this.
Oh, she has. You know what? I was waiting for her to chime in on this.
She has the
I was
ability.
on the edge of my seat.
She is solving all our problems. She has a great idea on how to stop all the nonsense. Well, posted by BuzzPo staff, they say Cher isn't known for being the most competent,
Oh, wow.
rational,
How dare they?
rational, or sane of celebrities. A tweet she sent out last week, which offered French police they call it a boneheaded plan. I think it's a headed plan. I think that's a misspeak for dealing with the hostage-taking terrorists in the country. Surely, it's just what it is. So here's what she said. She tweeted out last week. I know nothing about fighting terrorism, but if their objective is to die, can't police throw tear gas, then shoot them with darts, no martyrs.
Is that verbatim?
That is word for word. That is her tweet.
Did somebody somebody was in a hurry when they typed what she wrote?
No.
No, that's her tweet.
Well,
This wasn't her speaking. This is her tweeting.
tweet. Right. Well,
Oh my gosh,
she
that's
did
terrible.
use the number 2 to die, but in the word darts, DAR, and a picture of a gun, apostrophe S. Dart guns! I
Dart
get
guns.
it. I
Okay.
get it now.
Well, now in her defense,
Shoot them with dart guns.
Hold on. In
plural.
her defense, Twitter only allows you to have like 162 characters in any one single tweet.
I didn't know
So-
you could put pictures up.
Well, it's a new thing.
A little icon-y thing.
Yeah, it's a new thing. I don't know when it started or how, but
And
now,
I gotta get with the times.
yeah, that's a new thing. All you low information voters are probably all on top. You're probably screaming at your radio right now, like, how do you not know this? But so yeah, she has to abbreviate big time in order to get all that in. So her solution is to tear gas them to blind them, and then shoot them with dart guns to, like, have you ever
The
seen
tranquilizers.
have you seen the movie Madagascar?
Yeah.
Remember how the lion escapes and then they tranquilize him?
Yeah.
Well, that's what low information voters get all of their knowledge and information Everything
movies.
that they learn from Hollywood.
Well, that's how I learned how to shoot a shoulder-fired rocket.
By what?
By watching movies.
Oh, the falling down.
Yeah, flip,
falling
flip.
out.
Yeah.
If you've listened to our last episode, we explain which movie you need to watch in order to learn how to shoot a shoulder-fired rocket launcher. So anyway,
I've got.
So Cher thinks after watching Madagascar, well, this is just dart gun everybody.
Right, just dart. I don't know what you do with all the bodies and all the people.
Well, they'll wake up eventually.
And what do? You put them in jail? Or you just let them wake up and walk off?
Well, by the time they wake up, you gotta let them sleep it off.
It's like a drunken old man.
Yeah, you gotta let them
coming
sleep
and going
it off.
to beat people. It's like being in Mayberry on Andy Griffith.
Okay.
He picks up the drunk. Actually, the drunk shows up to jail, staggering drunk, and he takes the key from the sheriff. Unlocks the jail cell, climbs in, and locks it, and it covers up. Tells the sheriff, "Turn the lights out."
Oh my god! Like I needed somewhere to sleep.
I need to sleep this one off. So people on Twitter responded.
Oh, really? Well, why wouldn't they?
There's a guy named Really Rick at the Really Rick.
Well, probably when he tried to sign up for Twitter, he realized that some imposter took the name Rick.
Right.
And he's like, wait a minute. That's not... Whoever is masquerading around as Rick...
And then they took the real Rick. That was taken also.
So the real Rick was taken. Real Rick.
Right.
The real Rick.
All of that was taken.
The really Rick.
The really Rick.
So is he the really Rick or really Rick?
Really Rick at the Really Rick. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
So if you want to hit him up, do the at the Really Rick.
Okay. We're about to make him famous.
All right. Now I don't say this word, so I'll abbreviate and you can figure it out. But he spelled it all out. It says Cher, JC. Why did Kathy Griffin introduce you to Twitter? You are out of touch, rich, and ridiculous.
Yeah, that sums it up.
Shane Styles. Shaner 5000. Good luck with that one. Cher. Ooh. What about a big net that falls on them when they walk over the big X painted on the floor?
Oh, he is mocking her big time.
I think we could get them at Acme.
Oh! Dude, he is blasting her idea big time.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And then
that's a good one.
And then one that's not funny, but Cher, they must be killed, but we'll find out on the other side that the promise of 72 virgins and their idea of heaven is a lie. No sympathy. No, eliminate them from the face of the earth is the best course of action. Dead terrorists do not commit any further acts.
Well, yeah.
Dead men tell no lies.
Yeah. You know, it's a shame. Death is going to happen.
Eventually.
I'm talking death on a massive, massive scale. Because as we keep placating and hemming and hawing and not doing anything serious about it, we're just delaying the inevitable, which will be what I would consider... I think when World War III breaks out, because, back in the day we used to think World War III was going to be the Soviet Union and the United States launching their entire nuclear arsenals at each other. And that was going to be World War III. Now it's starting to look like, especially with the way the news is going now, that World War III is going to be... I guess a Christian population of getting fed up with the abuses of the Muslim population.
Right.
And so it'll be kind of a holy war, but it'll be a world war involving nations, because even though America isn't officially a Christian nation, it's going to be spearheaded by a country whose population is majority. And it doesn't have to be Christian per se. It could be Jews and Christians teaming up or whatever. What I'm saying it's going to be an anti-Islamic sentiment.
Right.
It'll be a population of non-Muslims, or infidels as they are called by Muslims, who are just totally fed up with the abuses.
Right. Well, it's something that also was pretty big this week is that in the aftermath of the 17 deaths in France.
Was it 17?
Well, they're saying it was the 12.
Right, the 12.
And then there was a few more.
Oh,
that happened.
Okay, so 17 total.
Right. There was a huge gathering, like a March on Washington type of thing. They were saying that there was over 1 million people.
That's big.
Including 40 major dignitaries. When I say major dignitaries, 40 major prime ministers and
presidents,
kings and queens and dictators.
Monarchs, dictators.
Monarchs. All.
But wait, did the emperor come?
I saw a picture that said he was there, and they photoshopped him high-stepping on the golf course in front of all of them.
Oh, that is funny.
No, Obama was nowhere to be found in France. They said Eric Holder was there, but he...
What?
They said he was over there, but he was a no-show.
But they sent John Kerry.
John Kerry said he had something else.
No, he went. Did you hear that today?
Yeah, well...
He took, what's his name with him? Taylor.
Swift?
No, not Taylor. For those low information voters,
they're on that.
Taylor.
What is she doing?
What?
Is she down?
Who am I thinking of?
James Taylor.
James Taylor, yeah.
The singer?
You didn't hear about this?
Shut the
you
front
low
door.
Information voter.
When did this break?
He took James Taylor over there. And
what did we sing in Kumbaya?
Yes.
Well, this was after the march, though.
Yes, this was like today.
I know because they were getting bashed for not having anybody there.
Right. That's why he did that.
Right. Obama made the comment the administration said, we were worried about security, so we couldn't send it.
Well, yeah, they're whatever. You didn't hear about James Taylor going there?
All right, roll with it. Well, I mean,
so John Kerry gets forced to go. And he goes to France.
Hold on. His position is the person that would go, though. His position is the one that would go. That's what he does. That's his job. He should have been there.
So John Kerry goes there and he speaks French to the people.
Hold on. Are you surprised?
No.
Okay.
And listening to his accent, I realize how much I hate the French language. I mean, it's like you got to hear it. I wish we had our sound bites on that, but
I don't have anything on French. No.
So he goes there and he goes on an apology tour, apologizing for whatever, and then he's like, "But I brought James Taylor with me." And he said, "James, you got anything to say?" And James Taylor proceeds to sing "You've Got a Friend."
You right.
So you didn't hear about that? James Taylor sang. Here we go. Look.
Yeah, I see it. You've got a friend to France,
yeah.
Which is, you know what? This is how pathetic these people are. Absolutely pathetic.
Wow.
Because what I'm going to tell you right now is going to blow your mind. All these things that are going on in France, and I know everybody's Charlie this, everybody's Charlie that, everybody's, really deep into Paris. I understand, but I think the big problem right now is that y'all are dropping the ball because, remember, I told you, terrorists don't take a day off. There are no holidays and there are no weekends. Killing on a Sunday is just as good as killing on a Monday morning. It doesn't matter. They'll do it. This week, while all of this is going on, along with James Taylor, breaking news, the day before, more than 3,000 miles to the south of France. This is in Nigeria. A girl believed to be around 10 years old approached the entrance of a crowded market in, I can't even pronounce the city, but it's in Nigeria. Of about 1 million in Nigeria-born state, security guard inspected her, and upon the inspection of her, the girl detonated explosives strapped to her body, killing herself and 19 other people. Dozens more were injured.
And she's 10?
She was 10 years old, yes, and they're saying that this is one of the youngest. The blast inflicted devastating damage on shoppers at the This is on a Monday market, in the shopping hub in a city that is at the heart of Boko Haram's insurgency. The explosion, witnessed by dozens of people, represented a new tactic in Islamics campaign with their decision to use perhaps their youngest suicide bomber ever. I say this because we were in such a heated debate this week over the new movie out, American Sniper.
Oh, yeah.
And the American Sniper had to kill and snipe children. He hated it. He didn't want to do it, but he had to do it. This is why these weak, pathetic men, you can't even call them men, weak, pathetic, spineless
animals,
fools, right, to say the least, because I'm trying to hold my tongue for using words I shouldn't be using. Use their women. They take women and strap bombs on them, put a giant sheet, a black sheet over them, send them out, and you're like, well, Brian, why don't they just not blow themselves up? They can't. A lot of them are in remote control, and they're detonated from far away.
Wow.
This is what we're dealing with.
They're just the most cowardly, the lack of, well, there's a lack of civility, but just, it's just, I wish I had the words to describe how pathetic it is that what they do. You're talking about the sniper killing women and children. It's because of what they're doing to their women and children that are requiring him to have to kill them.
And once again, when you say, well, America, you're bombing hospitals and schools. No, sorry. The hospitals and schools are being used as military installations because they're cowards.
They're doubling them as military installations as a tactical. It's a tactical thing that they're doing because they know that we're not going to bomb it at all, so it'll save all their weapons by putting them in schools and hospitals. Or B, if they do bomb it, they're going to use it as propaganda against us. They're going to say, "Look, they're killing our sick and our elderly in the hospitals, or they're killing our women and children in the elementary schools."
Right.
On purpose.
Right.
Well, actually, yes, it was on purpose, and it was to take out your arsenal.
Right. Because that's where you had your stockpiles of weapons.
And then you got these idiots like Alyssa who will look at that and say and believe that what we're doing is targeting women and children, not putting two and two together and realizing that we need to do that because that's where their arsenal is.
Right.
I mean, you have to look at everything from a wider perspective and put it all together. And in a war, if the enemy is using a school full of children as a military installation, causing it to become a target, then all bets are off.
Right.
Because it's war. It's not like we're thinking about maybe doing something. You know, we're in a peaceful time right now. Nobody's dying. Nobody's fighting. But we're thinking about blowing something up. And I know they got some military stuff in this hospital. So we're going to go ahead and just blow it up.
Just knock it
No,
out.
we're at war.
Right.
And when we're at war, certain things need to be done by both sides to eliminate or minimize the civilian casualties, particularly to women and children, or any non-military target. I mean, you wouldn't want a 1,000-year-old library, or what? It could be a museum full of ancient relics or whatever. You wouldn't want that blown up.
Funny you mentioned that. As my memory serves me correct, there was at one time these large, huge, giant statues that were carved out of the side of a mountain over there in the Middle East.
Yeah, they were thousands of years old.
Thousands of years old. And what did the Muslims do?
They literally wrapped dynamite around them to blow them into rubble.
Blew them up.
And why? Because they weren't Islamic. They weren't part of their religion. They were actually, I believe they were carved out as religious carvings from a non-Muslim religion.
Yeah, from thousands of years ago that were just that have become like the Sphinx. Like be careful, the Sphinx might not be Muslim enough. And blow up the Sphinx.
Yeah, could you imagine just wrapping that thing in dynamite, blowing it into little chunks of rock, and being like, well, we're Muslim, and we want Muslim things here. That's not Muslim or Islamic or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So it's got to go.
Gots to go. Then, the Statue of Liberty, that ain't Muslim.
It's not American. It's French.
It's French. Oh,
we should
it definitely does need to get blowed up.
We need to take it down like the Saddam statue. Wrap a chain around the
Oh
neck
my goodness!
And pull that thing down.
Oh my goodness!
Take the whole statue, and the skeleton inside that thing
all
is
steel framed.
Right, but it's remember, it was kind of pathetic watching that giant Saddam statue come down.
Yeah, because it had so much rebar in the concrete.
Well, it kind of broke off, and then it was held together by these silly little hollow poles.
Right.
And it just looked kind of pathetic. Guarantee you, when they pull down the Statue of Liberty, you're gonna be like, "What?" Because of the I beams that are holding it up inside just look ridiculous.
All girdering.
Yeah, and the outside is just the whole body of the Statue of Liberty is like that thin copper sheet.
Yep.
Sheet metal.
And one day we'll tell you the story behind the Statue of Liberty and how America didn't want nothing to do with it.
The French were like, "Here, take this." No, I don't know.
And now you know the rest of the story.
Whatever.
Yeah. So let's see. Bill Cosby in the news.
Yeah, Bill Cosby. I believe this is a guy who's being just blasted to smithereens, like rapid fire from every direction. But he's being accused of things that happened so many years ago that I'm like, why now? I think there's something going on.
I can't.
Couldn't it have been a year ago? Couldn't it have been 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
One girl is claiming from 2008, this one, where you could stick a carrot between her teeth.
Oh, she could eat corn on the cob through a picket fence?
Yes!
Okay.
Yes, and as some folks might refer to her as a chicken head. She claims that Bill Cosby at the Playboy Mansion drugged her up and took full advantage of her. However, the attorney for Bill Cosby said, I beg to differ. On the night in question, Bill Cosby wasn't even in town.
There you go.
What?
And who knows how many stories are made up
and
all that.
Hugh Hefner is coming to Bill Cosby's aid. Hugh Hefner is saying that nothing like that would ever happen in my mansion unless it was me doing it. Well, maybe he didn't say that part.
So what's with the timing? I mean, if some of these accusations are not even new at all.
They're saying Cosby was in New York City the night the model claims the comedian drugged her and accosted her in the bedroom in the mansion.
There's something up with the whole Cosby thing. It would make perfect sense if he just recently attempted to date rape, drug somebody, or use a drug on somebody, or try to rape somebody. If something recent just happened, and then now they're digging up all the old stuff, this would make perfect sense. For this to just come out of nowhere, out of the blue, doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, this one that just came out, she's claiming it happened in 2008, and she showed up with a lawyer in Los Angeles at the police department. The police department, the county city hall, showed up to file charges against Bill Cosby. And if this were to be somewhat true, 2008 allegations would be criminal. He could be charged.
Right.
Well, they're saying he was in New York City.
Right. Which is okay. So it's so why? Okay, we're in 2014.
And the reason why I say that is because
2015. I'm sorry.
Right. She's saying that it occurred at a party called Midsummer's Night Dream Party on August 9th, 2008. And specifically that date because specifically that party.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Cosby was in New York on a date. They got all kinds of documentation.
He's got an alibi.
Yeah.
Solid alibi. Okay, so she's obviously lying.
Well, and what's painful is that somebody is trying to steer this ship, and if they could get this to stick, then it would be criminal.
This would be criminal?
This would be criminal. Everything else, excuse me, is past the statute of limitations. Okay,
that's cool. But this story would cause the public to be verified. It would verify the old allegations.
Right. If this was true, then everything in the past, in the public's mind, could be true as well.
Oh, and the public's mind.
Dude, I feel like
court of public opinion. It's the most ridiculous. You ever heard that? The truth chases the lie all around the world.
Yeah, it never catches it.
Yeah, just the lie spreads all around the world and takes the truth weeks to catch up with it, or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, that's all part of the court of public opinion. But the thing about the Cosby thing that just doesn't make any sense to me is, where's the new allegations, and why is Cosby such a big story now? I almost feel like that Cosby is a threat to whoever it is that's blasting him, which seems to me like the left. Like
right.
Pop culture media, news media, which is all left owned and driven. When we say mainstream media, we're talking about the most powerful, widespread, listened to, watched media around, which is all controlled by liberals. For this to come out the way it is, sounds to me like the liberals are afraid that he's doing that. They're afraid of him doing something, and they have to destroy his credibility.
Right, which it blows my mind. Apparently, there was another lady, Judith Huth, Huth, Judith Huth, one of the ones that is the only one right now suing him in a civil court, claiming that she was 15 years old at the Playboy Mansion. I don't get that, but 15 years old, Playboy Mansion back in the 70s.
Well, back in the 70s, I could see that.
The prosecutors in Los Angeles rejected filing charges against him. Said, no, sorry, we can't do this. It's not enough. There's 15 other women have accused Cosby of drugging and sex abusing, but you could have 1 million accuse him. Why aren't the other 15 going to the police department? Yeah, I'm not trying to defend him. I'm just trying to say, why don't we do this?
We need to educate our young women in America to not be afraid or reluctant, for whatever reason, to speak up if you've been assaulted by somebody. Because what happens? 15 years later, you're like, well, you assaulted me. Well, why are you bringing it up now? Why didn't you bring it up when you should have brought it up? You know, if you're going to not bring it up when it happens, then why would you bring it up 15 years later?
Wow. No, you're absolutely right. They say on Friday, NBC Entertainment Chairman Bob Greenblatt closed the door on the network collaborating with Cosby on any future projects. NBC has cut themselves off all ties to Cosby, and so has Netflix, noting the number of accusers who have come forward.
No.
So NBC is saying because there's so many people have come forward, we've got to cut you off. Although none of the accusations against Cosby have been proven in court, Greenblatt said, when that many people come out and have such similar complaints, it became a tainted situation. And the network didn't want to proceed with the new sitcom featuring the comedian.
I just want to know if Jello's still on board.
Jello.
He was a huge... For those of you youngsters out there, it was all about Jello.
Yes, man!
You could probably bust out the YouTube and try to search Bill Cosby and Jello, and I'm sure his commercials would come up. He had a whole line of commercials.
Yeah, there is no...
Jell-O.
I'm looking at this girl. I don't even know how she made it into the Playboy Mansion, let alone Cosby even looking like that would be...
She looks like, from here, from my perspective, that she's kind of greasy, like sweaty.
She is. She looks like a man.
Well, she's got the jaw, and...
She looks like a white female Mike Tyson.
What?
Look at the teeth.
She's not smiling.
No, she's got that gap between her teeth.
I don't see it. It looks like... Is there...
Yeah, there's a hole. There's a hole right in the middle of her face.
Oh, that's called a mouth.
There's her tooth.
Oh, that is a huge gap. She looks like Michael Strahan.
Yes, that's the white Michael Strahan sister.
Okay,
sort of.
I got you. Okay.
But you never know.
But she's way... Like, there is a sheen on her that is amazing.
She rubbed herself down in Vaseline.
That's what it looks like.
Taking the picture.
That's what it looks like.
Jeez.
She's got to have 10 plastic surgeries. I mean,
of course.
That's what the sheen is. It's not. She's not sweaty or greasy. She is literally made out of plastic.
They use the old school silly putty.
Her skin looks like silly putty.
Silly putty.
Her skin looks just like it.
Oh wow. And so before we wrap this up, I wanted to throw one more thing out. I want to throw out this thing about Trey Gowdy.
Oh, I love it.
We're going to bring it back home.
You're going to love to
Talking
hear this,
about
guys.
Obama and this power grab he's making with immigration, with letting Iran get nuclear weapons and not stopping it. It's just the list goes on and on. Oh, he's blocking the truth about Benghazi and the documents coming out.
Trey Gowdy has been such an awesome attack dog for conservatives against communists. It's just awesome.
Right. Former prosecutor, so hold on to your hats. I like to call him Trey Machine Gun Gowdy.
There you go.
And here's
just rolls off the tongue.
Here's a clip of him.
Enforced. If this president's unilateral extra-constitutional acts are not stopped, Madam Speaker, future presidents will no doubt expand that power of the executive branch and threaten the constitutional equilibrium. But Madam Speaker, this is not a fight between Republicans and Democrats.
The gentleman will continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll back up in case they missed it. This is not a fight between Republicans and Democrats. It's not even a fight over immigration reform. This is a fight over whether this branch of government will ever find the courage to stand up for itself.
He is calling you out, Mr. Speaker of the House, John Boehner. He is calling every single one of you GOP establishment and the likes.
Well, specifically those in the legislative branch of the government, which would be Congress, House of Representatives, and it just so happens that John Boehner is the leader, Speaker of the House, which would be third in command of the country, but he's the leader of the legislative branch of government.
He almost lost his position and re-election as Speaker of the House so closely, so hotly debated, that it hasn't been done since the Civil War.
One thing that Trey Gowdy, I like that he is pointing out something that I think should be pointed out on a regular basis to liberals so that they know. They're always, it's like this knee-jerk reaction of, well, you know, you're just against us communists. You're just against us oppressive communists or liberals or progressives. But it's not about that. You got liberals and Democrats in all branches of government. But what we have here, which Trey Gowdy pointed out, is the executive branch just completely destroying or doing a power grab over the legislative branch. And if you know anything about the founding of the country, the Enlightenment period, and the way our Constitution works with the three branches of government, of them being roughly equal power and serving as checks and balances on each other, you can't let a
single branch out of the three branches. You can't let one single branch.
Right, and the presidency is the executive branch.
Right.
You can't let if you are in the legislative branch, you shouldn't let the executive branch take too much power. You really shouldn't do that. In fact, it's your job to make sure that they don't get too much power.
And the Founding Fathers believed wholeheartedly that each individual branch will fight for their power, which out of the three branches would maintain some type of balance. But they never in a million years could imagine that one of the branches, the House of Representatives, Congress, would just kowtow down to the executive branch to give them everything that they have not fought for one single thing. Legitimately, they may look like they're fighting.
They're not doing it.
But in all reality, it's smoke and mirrors. Apparently, there was an article that came out this week saying that this whole immigration thing, and it looks like the GOP's fighting them. But really, on the back end, Boehner's already made a deal with Obama.
Yeah. Well, and I think the dumbest thing that Boehner did was he took a tool away from the system of checks and balances by saying impeachment's off the table. And I know there's probably people listening like, oh, here we go with the impeachment talk. Impeach a black man. Impeach first black president, whatever.
Nobody impeach the first communist president.
Yeah, forget about the fact that he's black. I don't know if he's the first communist president, but he is full-blown, full-bore communist.
Okay, we'll say the first out-of-the-closet president that's communist.
Woodrow Wilson was probably our first real communist president.
Now, was he out of the closet, or was he kind of subtle about it?
I think he was very subtle.
Okay.
But getting back to Boehner, you said that he barely got reelected as the House.
Did I say barely?
I said that. I'm sorry. That's my word. I know you wouldn't have said that.
That's okay.
My dad wrote a letter to one of the people.
I was so
who voted for.
I felt like somebody had stuck a dagger right through my heart when I saw what she had done.
So this woman, Mia Love,
she's the first black female congresswoman.
Okay. So
Republican.
Mia Love was one of obviously many who decided to vote Boehner back in as Speaker of the House.
And she was touted as a Tea Party conservative.
Oh, was she?
Yes! You know, she was backed by the Tea Party.
Jim Jordan wrote something on Facebook about Boehner being back as Speaker, and it sounded supportive. You know what he said? He said, we're giving him one more chance, is what he said. Jim Jordan, which is shocking because he's very pro-Tea Party. But so Mia was one of the people that voted, and so my dad, who has contributed money to her campaign, was just outraged. So he wrote a letter to her, and he forwarded me the letter, and this is what he said. Dear Mia, I contributed to your campaign last year because I thought you were a conservative and were going to Washington to stop Obama. Right now, I am very angry, and so are a lot of people I know. I lost my job at the local coal-burning power plant due to the EPA regulations that were never voted on by Congress. And I lost my health care due to the ACA, a.k.a. Obamacare. Now that we voted you in, I expected you to do one thing: stop Obama. John Boehner had the speakership for 4 years and did nothing to stop Obama. John Boehner must be replaced with a speaker that will do his or her job to stop Obama. You voted for Boehner to be speaker, so I cannot support you anymore. I could go on and on about dozens of impeachable acts that Obama has done, but the 4 things that are on the top of my list, number one, and what he means, this isn't impeachable acts, but these are the 4 things that are on top of his list. Number 1, repeal Obamacare, if not defund it. I would 100% support a government shutdown if necessary, but this is a disaster. Number 2, take the powers away from the EPA. CO2 is not a pollutant. The EPA plans to shut down the entire coal industry by 2016. We get 65% of our electricity from coal and less than 2% from green energy. This will bankrupt the nation. 3, secure the borders and stop amnesty. And 4, prosecute the leaders that were responsible for A, Fast and Furious, B, the IRS scandal, and C, Benghazi. Thank you, my dad. And that was perfectly
says
written.
It all.
Yeah,
it says everything that we're talking about.
He had everything, especially Fast and Furious, IRS scandal, and Benghazi. Let me tell you something about the IRS scandal. That right there alone should absolutely, positively, of all the things in all of American history, there's one time that you would impeach a president and remove him if he didn't resign over it. It would be this IRS scandal.
Right. Well, and apparently there's more IRS stuff in the news this week.
It's got to be the biggest abuse of the president over its citizen that has ever occurred in American history. It has to be.
Right.
I mean, even if you look at Nixon got impeached for doing something that would be illegal, immoral, all the above, in trying to get himself reelected, trying to win an election. He was basically spying on the opposition and stealing documents from the hotel and all that stuff, which obviously, I have no problem with them punishing him for it and impeaching him for it. I have no problem with them for doing that. But no, what other time, what other incident in American history can you name where there's been such a direct assault on the American people than what we had Obama do with the IRS scandal?
I don't know. There isn't one. I mean, the only other one would be this one. The Environmental Protection Agency, on the heels of the controversy of the IRS over missing emails, is facing a probe of its own over whether it improperly scrubbed emails and text messages.
Well, yeah, that's the cover-up part of it.
Oh!
Yeah, this is the whole Lois Lerner, I lost my emails, it's my computer crashed. Yeah, but your computer doesn't hold your emails. Oh, well, who does hold it? Oh, the server? Oh, that's right, the server crashed.
Server crashed.
What about all the servers?
All of them.
Yeah. And it's funny because only the computers and servers that were specifically incriminating, only those crashed.
But, Kerry, didn't they have a third-party company that also backed up as a service?
Yeah, somehow they got rid of them just in time. And also, on a crashed server and crashed computer, you can always do stuff to recover a lot of data from the hard drives of those servers and computers. But they were apparently shredded, which was much of what I just said is actually against existing law. So laws were broken in order to cover up the big law that would be impeachable, which is
she had a BlackBerry that was also shredded.
Oh, because once she found out that the computer crashed and was being shredded, she thought
these people people really that stupid?
You know who?
I don't get it.
No, they're brilliant. You know why? Because they could do stuff this stupid and get away with it, and the fact that they did makes them brilliant, and makes the citizens for not holding these people accountable the idiots.
So going back to checks and balances. The Founding Father believed that the three branches would balance each other out, and the fourth branch, the unspoken branch,
which would be the media.
The media!
Yeah.
Who is in bed? And the communists have been
biggest corrupt
overtaking the media for over 100 years. They have been slowly whittling away at the media for over 100 years, so much so that Rachel Maddow Mad Cow was interviewing this week the ambassador to France. And I'm not quoting her, but this is what she said to him. She said to him, the ambassador to France.
You're paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing. I'm not quoting. She said to him, how do you allow that institution to print those cartoons about the Islams? The Muslims.
Islams.
How do you allow them? She's a reporter, an advocate of free speech, and she's interviewing the ambassador to France about why he's allowing
why the government should be allowing
magazine to print satirical cartoons about Muslims and Muhammad.
For her to have that attitude is in direct opposition with the First Amendment.
It's a teaching moment.
Which is funny because it is the First Amendment. It's only the First Amendment which allows her to even have the job that she has.
First Amendment, free speech. The Founding Fathers felt that was fairly
Freedom
important.
Of press, all of that.
They felt that was fairly important because that was number one on their list of things to put down.
Yeah, and she's literally saying, I'm from a country that has this fundamental right given to us by our Creator, and allowing me to have the job that I have. Why would you? It's almost like it never occurred to her that her own government would not be allowed to prohibit that. She doesn't. It's like she doesn't know.
Right.
That America would not be allowed to prohibit that. Thanks to our founding fathers, who knew that would be really bad. Did you hear Pat Buchanan today?
No,
My God, if I had time, I would have downloaded the entire Sean Hannity show. I've never been more disappointed in Sean Hannity in my whole life than I was today listening to his show. He had Pat Buchanan on because Pat Buchanan went on some show and said that
who is Pat Buchanan?
He's I don't know what offices he held, if he ever did hold any offices. But let me look it up real quick. Pat Buchanan was the conservative foil on MSNBC for like a decade.
Right.
He was the idiot that would get on MSNBC and act like an idiot conservative while the liberals would pick apart his argument.
Okay, well, they're calling him an American conservative political commentator, but...
Yes, that's what he is.
But I've never seen him as that. I always thought he was like the middle of the road, like a John McCain.
Oh, he used to be like the evangelical... He would be the spokesman for like the evangelical conservative wing. The evangelical wing of the Conservative Party or Republican Party or whatever. So he's very pro-Christian, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But he's not the smartest, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. And so they hired him at MSNBC for many, many years to be the Republican that would go on and say the talking points that the liberals would then be able to counter all day.
Okay.
And so he was the Republican foil for MSNBC. Anyway, he gets on to Hannity today and says what we all need to realize is we need to accept the fact that when you say certain things that are offensive to those that would kill you, that you're putting yourself at risk.
Well, of course, our founding fathers did that. They knew they were putting themselves at risk by signing the Declaration of Independence. That's what we're founded on.
Right, but he says we need to accept that, and then we need to take responsibility with our lives.
Okay, that's fine. I will.
If we decide to, so he's saying it's okay that those people got killed, because
he's a lunatic. Wow, he's jumped the shark.
Yeah, he said
way off the
he
bat.
said we all, and then Hannity said, you know what? There's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying.
Oh,
and then this is how he supported it. He said, you know, these listeners, they don't realize that when we say certain things on the radio, that we get all kinds of death threats. It's a dangerous world. And Pat Buchanan, he supported what he said with saying, people don't realize all the security that Charlie Hebdo had. All the security. They had to have all the security. Why do you think they had to have that security? It was because of what they were saying. And that's the world we live in. And I'm sitting here thinking, why do they not realize the ignorance and lunacy of what they're saying? My argument is this. We should not accept that we may pay with our lives for our freedom of speech.
Right.
We shouldn't accept that.
Right.
We should fight back anytime anybody threatens our life because of what we say. And if they do kill for what people say, we need to fight back with violence. We need to take them out.
Because if you don't,
we're defending our First Amendment.
Right, because if you don't, they will keep coming and coming and coming, and they won't stop.
We in America, and Pat Buchanan obviously misses this, and I have no idea how Hannity missed this, but he missed it big time. In America, it should be known to everybody that we defend our rights written in the First Amendment with violence and with our life if we have to, through war. We will war with somebody who tries to take away our rights.
We have to be that way, because if we're not, we will be defeated.
Yeah. Well, and what does defeat mean? It means we end up being enslaved by a class of people that would be considered what? Dictators, government.
Bullies.
Well,
the bullies take
they're
over.
The leaders.
Right.
They end up being the new government.
Right.
A government without a constitution, a Bill of Rights that ensures the rights of the people ends up being a dictatorship, an oppressive dictatorship, where the whim of the dictator ends up being the law, and your rights don't matter.
Right, not even a little bit.
And Pat Buchanan wants us to accept a world in which people out there will kill you if they're offended by your speech, and we need to accept that, is what he's saying. We need to accept the world in which saying certain things is going to cost us our life.
I will accept the fact that those people are out there, but those people out there need to accept the fact I won't stand for it.
Right, but Pat's not saying that.
Right.
He's saying that we need to not post inflammatory pictures of Muhammad. We should not say certain things that could end up getting us killed, because there are people out there that will kill us. So we need to kowtow to those people. So literally, you could flip that over and say, well, as long as I'm willing to announce that I will kill somebody for saying X, Y, and Z,
right,
and my threats are credible, that and then that's all I need to do to prevent people from saying certain things. Like, for instance, like say, I don't want somebody to say that I'm a bad person. As long as I go out there and publicly say, I will kill you for saying bad things about me, and don't think I am kidding, then I have thwarted any possibility of somebody saying anything bad about me.
Well, unless they are in defiant.
Well, Pat Buchanan would say, well, you shouldn't have said anything bad about Kerry because he will kill you.
Right.
So why did you do that? It's your fault that you're dead because you said something bad about Kerry when you know full damn well that he said he was going to kill you if you did. That's literally what Pat Buchanan's saying.
ISIS is telling Israel to give up all their land and that there should be a world without them. I guess Israel needs to accept that fact that those people are out there that don't like what they're saying, and so Israel needs to go away. Because the Muslims look at the Israel as being bad and evil, and the words that are coming out of their mouth is bad, and that they're not following the Muslim tradition, and that's bad. So either they kill them or they convert them. So Pat is saying that if you're Jewish and you live in Israel, then you need to accept the fact, if you say that you're a Jew and you're staying a Jew, accept the fact that you could die for that.
So in a more general sense, because that's more freedom of religion than freedom of speech, in a more general sense, you should
well, where does it
yield.
Where does it stop? Freedom of speech? Where does it stop? Freedom of religion? Where does it stop? I mean, you could stretch Pat's words
and
a long way.
Yeah, I'm going to make the general statement.
Okay.
That the general statement that Pat Buchanan is trying to say is that we should always yield our right to do or say whatever we want to those that would kill us for doing it.
Terror.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally surrendering to the terrorists by saying that. And Hannity agreed with him by saying, those are very wise, interesting words, and there's nothing I could say. And I'm sitting here thinking, are you guys out of your mind?
Well, I don't think they're too far out of their mind.
Bunch of cowards.
I think Pat may be going down the road of the Pope. Apparently, the Pope put out a statement. Oh, crap. He's saying the Pope also said that climate change is man-made. This Pope is really off the hook, but apparently he came out earlier and said that the exact same sentiments that Pat said.
You shouldn't say bad things
about other people's religions.
Other
religions. And other people's don't talk about other people's religion. You're crossing the line.
Now let's talk about projection real quick. Why would he say that? If you look at it from a projection point of view, he would say that because it would outrage him to hear somebody bash Catholicism. It must be. It
has to be because I'll be honest.
Think about it. If he was okay with somebody bashing Catholicism, and with the understanding that, well, that's okay because I will convince you with my words, my convincing words. I'll be able to have that debate with you, and I hopefully should be able to win that debate with you.
Right.
Instead, he's like, I just really wish you wouldn't say anything bad about my religion at all. So therefore, I will make the broad statement that we shouldn't. Nobody should be bashing anybody's religion. We're talking about a religion who a lot of people have come out and said, well, we either convert them or kill them.
Okay, so apparently the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, Pope Francis has defended freedom of expression following last week's attack on a French satirical magazine, but also stresses its limits.
There really shouldn't be any limits. You know what the limits to freedom of speech are? And I'm the only one on any public forum anywhere saying this. Because everybody's like, well, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Sure you can. In fact, I challenge anybody to try that today. How many people do you think are going to be trampled to death? Let's be realistic. If you yelled fire in a crowded theater, people are going to look around and be like, whatever.
Fire, fire, get up, let's go, there's a fire.
I don't smell anything. I don't see anything.
It's dark as night in here, and if there was a fire, it'd be lit up. There'd be light.
Well, you'd be able to see the light of the fire, but even if it was just smoke, you'd be able to see it through the project, whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, the whole thing about freedom of speech, I'm the only one on there saying this, but I can make an argument for allowing any speech at all, period. I can make an argument for it.
Okay, so this is what the pontiff said. He said religions have to be treated with respect so that people's faiths were not insulted or ridiculed.
I agree with that on the grounds of etiquette and morality, but at the end of the day, there should be no laws that would end up having any kind of criminal prosecution against you for saying anything bad about Christianity or Islam.
Because you know they say stuff bad about Christianity, and nobody's dying.
Right.
I would bet money that more jokes are made at Christians and Christianity than any other religion.
Forget about jokes. What about art that's extremely
horrible
offensive?
Art. And nothing's gone
the crucifix in the urine,
right.
The jar of urine, all that stuff.
Oh, I forgot to mention. Did you know that after that happened, Glenn Beck took a glass jar and put up an Obama figure in it and filled it with urine and put it on eBay, and he called it Obama pee-pee.
Okay.
And to sell it, and the price was going up. He said the price was over $28,000. They kept saying the price on the show as the show was going.
Okay.
And finally, eBay took it down.
Why?
Because there's bodily fluids.
Oh, they found the loophole.
Well, but it wasn't bodily fluids.
It was precious
bodily fluids. Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, it is.
For those of you who have not seen Dr. Strangelove, I actually saw it a couple of months ago.
We're pushing it hard, by the way.
That movie is a must-see. You know it was rated like in the top 3 of all-time comedies.
Wow.
It's like in the top 3 in the like. In fact, I thought I saw it. I don't think it's number 1 because I think Airplane's always going to be number 1.
Airplane just being wow! It's got 99% Rotten Tomatoes. 96.
That's 99% fresh.
Right. When I say Rotten Tomatoes, I mean that's good. It's weird. I
learned to stop worrying and love
the bomb. Yes,
it is a very it's one, and it's the timing on that. A lot of people don't realize this, and I didn't either.
Well, look at the cover of it. The cover of the it's right there. Russia is on one side, and America's on the other side.
Well, a lot of people don't realize this, but it came out like literally weeks after the Cuban Missile Crisis. The timing on it was so impeccable.
Almost as impeccable as...
how long does it take to make a movie?
Hold on. Almost as impeccable as Selma.
Oh, that timing was ridiculous.
Did you hear about Selma this week?
Yeah, it bombed big time.
It bombed.
It bombed.
And Al Sharpton came out this week and is boycotting all of Hollywood because every single actor and actress nominated for an award was all white.
Well, no, that the entire Selma cast was snubbed.
Right.
And
all the nominees were white, and he's throwing.
Yeah, there was a article that I saw about Selma, and it was a Spike Lee article. Did you hear about that?
when it says Spike Lee, I just can't help but to knee jerk and go do an about face.
There's always because he's big time racist.
Oh,
If I'm like, I must have already taken it down. It's such an unpopular article. I'm scrolling through. Wow, it really did drop off the radar. Spike Lee, yeah, he's upset. And of course, on the flip side, the Sniper movie. What's the Sniper movie called again?
American Sniper.
American Sniper is getting all kinds of nominations and everything like that. So it's kind of
go see American Sniper. Be prepared to be absolutely emotionally charged for 2 straight hours. They are talking about this movie. It came out in all theaters nationwide last Friday. Oh, last Friday. I mean, yesterday. My time's a little screwed up here, but it came out yesterday, and the reviews are just absolutely raving. My wife has seen it. I'll get to see it tonight. Spike Lee on Selma Oscar snub. I guess we're not free at last. Oh my God!
I guess we're not free at last. Free at last. I'll tell you what.
I'll tell you. Don't give me. We've only got a couple of minutes. We got to wrap this thing up. We are at the end of our rope.
How many minutes? Oh yes, we're getting close.
We're at the end of our rope. I mean, I don't know how much more we can pound it in today. I mean, obviously,
there's just so many different, like, great news stories. You know, the Selma thing, and then the Chris Cornell, which just blows my mind.
I'll put this out there to the airwaves, to everybody out there that's listening. Do us a favor, especially if you like the show. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's about entertainment and information. If you like the show, do us a favor, help us to help you by getting the word out. Do you know anybody that would be able to put us in a position that could do this on a daily basis? That we could do this show as a full-time job on a daily basis. If you know somebody like that, turn them onto the show. If they like it, maybe they can do something.
Yeah, I mean, just
share it with your friends. Yeah. The bare minimum, share it with somebody.
Well, you could share it on Facebook, and people will listen to it. And maybe somebody in your friends list will be like, "Oh, I like this. I'll listen to this on a regular basis." Right. We're also on iHeartRadio. You can put us in your favorites column on iHeartRadio, so that on a weekly basis you can click on it and it'll play our latest installment
first.
Right. Yeah, right away. And if you want to listen to old ones, you just click forward and you'll play your old ones.
And now we're on iTunes.
You could podcast us.
Podcast us on iTunes.
And then also you want to friend us on our Facebook page, and you want to log into Spreaker and friend us there and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
we're all over the place. We're here for you. We're here to get the information out. The facts. The facts of what is to help put back America the way it was intended to be. Free from all this tyranny, free from all these dictators, free from people controlling your lives, so that you have complete 100% control of your destiny to do whatever makes you happy.
There you go.
That's what it's all about.
That boils it down right there.
So, any last words for the week, Carrie?
We got all the rectal feeding.
Rectal feeding.
I believe we do. That's about it for the week, folks. Glad you listened. Again, stay tuned for next week. More breaking news and updates.
It's always breaking.
Everything's
always
breaking. Oh, there it is. Goodbye now.
Oh, it's coming out.